The story begins with the fact that in a place called the wilderness, many very dangerous and predatory monsters have gathered. All the monsters had one goal, and this man's name was Li Qingniu, and he was preparing to strike back at the monsters. Li Qingniu stood and remembered the words of his grandfather that his grandson was still too weak, and this really infuriated him now. Li Qingniu walked and thought that he always wanted to appear stronger in the eyes of his grandfather and did everything he could do for this. And then suddenly a monster appeared behind him out of nowhere and wanted to attack Li Qingniu to deal with him once and for all. Li Qingniu was surprised and turned around and noticed that a monster had begun to approach behind him and began to think about a rescue plan. Li Qingniu became very angry at this, and his eyes immediately filled with blood, and he realized that if he did not do anything, he would die there. Li Qingniu remembered that his grandfather said that he should become stronger and immediately dealt a powerful blow to the monster and destroyed it. Li Qingniu dealt with the monsters without any problems, and he was very tired after the battle and sat down on the ground and decided to rest to gain strength. Li Qingniu turned his head and heard some sounds next to him and realized that next to him someone was moving along his route. And then suddenly a cart stopped in front of Li Qingniu, and someone asked Uncle Zhao to wait a minute and not go anywhere. Li Qingniu heard someone say that there was someone there because they noticed him and wondered who could be in such places. Li Qingniu had no strength left at all, and at that moment he fell to the ground and lost consciousness, and people began to approach him. After that, one day passed and Li Qingniu rode a horse along the flat roads with the people, and finally he came to his senses. Businessman Gu asked Li Qingniu who he was and said that his injury was too severe and he needed to rest for a while. Businessman Gu told Li Qingniu that he was very lucky, and if he had not been met by their caravan, he would have been eaten by wild animals. Li Qingniu smiled and said that he did not think that this desert would be so vast, and said that he had been wandering there all day. Businessman Gu listened to him, and Li Qingniu said that he was always told that he was very weak and needed to train a lot. Businessman Gu smiled and told Li Qingniu that he was still young and would have hope of awakening his soul's fighting spirit and becoming strong. Gu told Li Qingniu that when he became a martial arts warrior, he would be able to defend himself in this desert, and Li was very surprised by this. Li Qingniu didn't know who the martial arts warriors were, and Businessman Gu asked if he really didn't know and asked to look at the leader. The leader's name was Wu Shuangyi, and Businessman Gu said that thanks to the 4-star warrior they could confidently walk through this desert. Li Qingniu looked at the leader of Wu Shuangyi and wondered if this was a warrior who had awakened his fighting spirit and was very strong. And then suddenly the girl told Uncle Zhao that he told her about the 7-star dragon beast, and she became very interested in this. Her name was Gu Ruoqing, and she asked if this young man who was almost killed, and they picked up the name Li Qingniu. Zhao Guanjia asked Miss Ruoqing if she was joking and said that it was just a teenager whom they picked up in the desert. Gu Ruoqing asked Zhao Guanjia how to kill the 7 stars night beast dragon, and suddenly the horses got scared at that moment. Zhao Guanjia was very surprised and asked Miss Ruoqing why the horses panicked so much, and were there really bandits or robbers there. Gu Ruoqing told Uncle Zhao that she didn't know what was going on there, and he forbade her to go there because there might be bandits there. But Gu Ruoqing got out of the transport and said that they were all going there along a dangerous route and there could be bandits and monsters there. Gu Ruoqing asked if the robbers could hurt her and told Wu Shuang's that he would go with her, and Zhao froze at such an order. Wu Shuang smiled and told Miss Gu that she was right, and while he was with them, these bandits were just an ordinary breakfast snack for them. Gu Ruoqing agreed with Wu Shuangyi and said that after returning to Ruoqing City, they would prepare a delicious wine banquet and celebrate everything. But suddenly someone said to Gu Ruoqing that she was really thinking of returning to the city, and said that he thought that she had no chance. The stranger told Miss Gu Ruoqing that her father was now in a coma and it was stupid to rely on the little girl to protect the Gu family. He asked to be allowed to be the head of the family and asked Gu Ruoqing if she shouldn't have rushed and married his son faster. Wu Shuang's told the man that he was an old thief and he was an elder who wanted to seize power in the Gu family, and he was a mean old man. Gu Ruoqing asked Gu Chengmu if he was sure that he could grab her because there was a 4-star brave warrior next to him. Gu Chengmu began to laugh and asked Ruoqing if she really thought that he was not prepared and she was proud of her brave warrior. Wu Shuang's was very angry at Gu Chengmu's words and asked how he dared to talk to Miss Ruoqing like that, and now he will be punished. Wu Shuang's prepared himself and immediately jumped with all his might towards Gu Chengmu and wanted to deal with him so that he would finally shut up. Wu Shunji began to approach Gu Chengmu and thought that he was very strong and would now make him apologize to Miss Gu. But Gu Chengmu was not worried at all and smiled and told Mr. Black to act, and a strange black creature stood next to him. And at that moment, suddenly a black creature flew towards Wu Shuangyi very quickly, and she carried out Gu Chengmu's order. And then at high speed a black creature crashed into Wu Shuangyi and stopped him, and he did not understand that it stopped him so easily. Wu Shunji crashed into the ground with all his might, and his people did not understand what happened to their master Wu Shuangyi and what prevented his attack. Wu Shuangzi lay on the ground and could not believe his eyes and told his people that this man in black was very dangerous and strong. And then suddenly Wu Shuangzi told his people that this man in black was a 5-star warrior and was much stronger than him. Gu Ruoqing and Zhao Guanjia froze in surprise and wondered if Gu Chengmu really had such a strong warrior that he was hiding. Gu Chengmu asked Gu Ruoqing if she could still consider his proposal and agree to marry his brave son. The warrior in black told Gu Ruoqing that by becoming his daughter-in-law, she would not have to worry about the caravan and would always be well protected. Gu Ruoqing told Gu Chengmu that it was time for him to stop dreaming and said that she would never fulfill his wish and marry. Gu Chengmu got angry and told Gu Ruoqing that since she didn't accept his offer, she couldn't blame him for being mean. And at that very second, Gu Chengmu asked Mr. Black to finish off everyone and not spare anyone because Gu Ruoqing really pissed him off. And then Mr. Black flew towards Gu Ruoqing, and Mrs. People didn't know what to do with such a strong warrior because they were weak. Miss Gu Ruoqing fell to the ground and her people asked her to quickly run away from there because the black warrior was almost approaching her. Gu Ruoqing closed her eyes and realized that she would not be able to escape and that the end would come for her now, and there was nothing she could do about it now. But suddenly Li Qingniu stood in front of Gu Ruoqing and asked Miss why there was a need to run away, because it was possible to cope differently. Mr. Black told Li Qingniu that he was just an idiot who did not know his strength and now could not answer him with anything. Mr. Black looked menacingly at Li Qingniu and said that he would now die at his hands and began to quickly approach him. Li Qingniu told Mr. Black that he was annoying him and said that he only knew how to talk and was not capable of anything and was a weakling. Li Qingniu clenched his fist tightly and swung it and thought that Mr. Black was clearly underestimating him and he really liked it. And as soon as Mr. Black approached Li Qingniu, he dealt a powerful blow to him, and he did not think that Li was so strong. Zhao Guanjia and the rest of the people were frozen in surprise and shock and could not believe that Li Qingniu destroyed Black so easily. Gu Ruoqing also couldn't believe her eyes and thought who this guy was, that he could easily deal with such a strong warrior. Gu Chengmu was surprised and wondered if Mr. Black was killed by this child with just one blow, and it was simply impossible. Wu Shuang smiled and told everyone that Li Qingniu was very strong and he did not expect that such a strong warrior was with them. Li Qingniu looked at his hand and thought that he was very weak because he could not forget his grandfather's words that he was a weakling. Gu Ruoqing told Zhao Guanjia that she didn't believe it, and he told her that this man was indeed very strong and had now saved everyone. The people told the head Gu Chengmu that Mr. Black was subjected to one blow, and where did such a strong person come from in the caravan? Gu Chengmu asked his people what they were afraid of and said that Li Qingniu had clearly deceived them and they simply believed in this deception. But at that very second, Gu Ruoqing suddenly told Gu Chengmu to give up and said that maybe then she would spare him and let them go home. Gu Chengmu called Gu Ruoqing an annoying girl and said that at first he wanted her to stay alive and be happy. Gu Chengmu said that now everything has changed and they both will go to hell together, and waved his hand and pulled some thread. And then suddenly a huge explosion thundered, and Gu Chengmu told Gu Ruoqing that this was a gift from him prepared in advance for her. Gu Ruoqing was surprised because she did not expect that Gu Chengmu would be such a cunning person and had come up with so many cunning plans in advance. All the planes began to collapse, and Gu Ruoqing's people asked everyone to escape from there so as not to end up under the rubble and debris of the planes. A piece of stone began to fly towards Gu Ruoqing, and Wu Shuangyi asked Miss Gu Ruoqing to quickly hide because now she was in danger. Wu Shuangzi began to quickly run towards Gu Ruoqing to save her because she did not react to his words as she was now in shock. Wu Shuangzi quickly ran to Miss Gu Ruoqing and stopped the flying stone with his hand and saved her from danger, and she was fine. Wu Shuangzi directed all his energy at the stone and smashed it into pieces, and it was amazing, and he was also a strong warrior. Warrior Wushuang's turned around and asked his people to quickly hide behind the caravan so that a huge stone would not accidentally fly towards them either. Gu Chengmu looked at all the events that were happening and asked Gu Ruoqing if she really thought that everything was over and there were no more problems. Gu Chengmu said that he also planted explosives at the foot of the mountain and poor Gu Ruoqing will now definitely die and disappear forever. But suddenly someone told Gu Chengmu that he couldn't kill Gu Ruoqing and today he couldn't do it even if he wanted to. Gu Chengmu turned around and noticed that Li Qingniu was standing behind him and he had dealt with all the people and he didn't know how he ended up there. Gu Chengmu asked Li Qingniu how he got up there so quickly and said that if he came closer to him, he would blow up everything there. Li Qingniu looked at Gu Chengmu and began to think about what he could do to prevent the scoundrel from foiling his plans. Gu Chengmu wanted to say something but Li Qingniu quickly ran up to him and struck him hard on the stomach and he was speechless. Gu Chengmu said that the people below would die with him, but he did not expect that Li Qingniu would hit him and would not even listen to him to the end. Li Qingniu told Gu Chengmu that he talked too much and he was too slow to stand up to him in a fight. Li Qingniu began to strike hundreds of blows at Gu Chengmu and all these blows were very powerful and caused a lot of damage to the old man. And then, after a couple of minutes, Li Qingniu threw Gu Chengmu down and told Gu Ruoqing that he was done with the old thief and he would not harm anyone. Li Qingniu said that now everything will return to normal and they can continue on their way and not be afraid of any bandits and scoundrels. Gu Ruoqing thought that Li Qingniu was too strong and he dealt with Gu Chengmu's gang in a matter of minutes without any problems. Gu Ruoqing wondered who exactly this Li Qingniu was and why he was so strong and where he came from in this vast desert. Wu Shuang's told Li Qingniu that from now on it would be easier for them to live without this old man and he was very impressed by his strength and energy. Li Qingniu asked Wu Shuang's not to tell him that he was so strong and said that in fact he was very weak and was not proud of himself. Li Qingniu smiled and said that they could not defeat him and this shows that they are weaker and it was not difficult for him in the battle with them. Wu Shuang's was shocked and told Li Qingniu that he killed the black warrior with one blow and called himself weak and how was this possible. Gu Ruoqing told Li Qingniu that when they found him in the desert, there was a 7-star beast next to him and how did he survive next to him. Li Qingniu told Gu Ruoqing that the monster wanted to eat him and that's why he killed him and didn't even know what level this monster was at. Gu Ruoqing was surprised and she didn't think that he really killed him and it seemed like they didn't know what level Li was really at. Wu Shuanggi said that brother Li Qingniu was so strong that he almost awakened the spirit of martial arts and this embarrassed him as a warrior. Li Qingniu asked brother Wu Shuang's if he really knew how to awaken the spirit of martial arts and he was very interested in finding out. Wu Shuang's asked Li Qingniu if he really wanted to become a warrior and said that it was easy to do and he should go to the fighter academy. Wu Shuang's told Li Qingniu that many warriors in the Sun Kingdom were from the martial arts academy and were training future warriors there. Wu Shuang's told Li Qingniu that with his talent, by going there he would be able to awaken a strong fighting spirit and become a strong warrior. Li Qingniu was very happy that he learned about the martial arts academy and asked Gu Ruoqing if Wu Shuanggi's words were completely true. Gu Ruoqing said that their Chamber of Commerce has a guaranteed place and they will repay brother Li Qingniu for saving the team in full. But Gu Ruoqing told Li Qingniu that in order to do this she needed her dad, but unfortunately now her father was unconscious. Wu Shuang said that if Gu Chuan had not met with an accident, Gu Chengmu had no evil intentions and now the 7-star warrior was suffering. Li Qingniu wondered if Gu Chuan was a 7-star warrior and he must have been very strong and he really wanted to see him. Gu Ruoqing told brother Li Qingniu that if he had no urgent business in this city, then he could go to Qingyang City with them. Gu Ruoqing said that when she sees her father, she will ask him to help Li Qingniu enter the martial arts academy. Wu Shuang smiled and said that it was very good and asked them to look to the side and pointed to this place with his finger. Gu Ruoqing and Li Qingniu saw a huge temple and Wu Shuanggi said that this was the city of Qingyang and they could admire its beauty. Li Qingniu tried on a new suit and told Wu Shuanggi that this outfit was good and did he really want to give him this gorgeous thing? Gu Ruoqing told Li Qingniu that there were no clothes for boys in the house and these were her father's old clothes when he was young. Wu Shuanggi asked brother Li Qingniu to accept these clothes and said that they looked more heroic than his old, unfashionable clothes. Li Qingniu thanked them for such a generous gift and said that these were the best clothes he had ever worn and he appreciated them. Gu Ruoqing told Li Qingniu that she was glad that he liked everything and asked him to let her introduce him to Father Gu Chuan. A couple of minutes later, they all entered the room and Gu Ruoqing told Li Qingniu that it was her father Gu Chuan, head of the Gu Chamber of Commerce. The doctor told Gu Ruoqing that her father Gu Chuan was in a coma during the bone cleansing and it was indeed very dangerous for him. Li Qingniu asked the doctor if it was really a wild bone and it was so difficult to clean it that it took a lot of time. Wu Shuangyi said that wild bones are the core of some wild animals and they contain something very interesting for warriors. Wu Shuangyi said that warriors can purify wild bones to gain mysterious power and this was very interesting and useful. But Wu Shuangyi said that cleaning wild bones was very dangerous and if he was careless, he would get into trouble as the head of the Gu Chuan chamber. Gu Ruoqing said that she hates being Gu Chuan's daughter and she can't find a famous doctor and get better from her father. But suddenly someone asked Gu Ruoqing what about his father and whether he brought Gu Ruoqing back and he was interested in her opinion. And then a guy appeared in front of them and smiled and told them that he was very glad to see them safe and not dead. He asked Zhao Guanjia and Wu Shuangyi why they were still alive and unharmed and whether they had also betrayed the main Gu family. Gu Ruoqing asked Gu Tianyi what he needed from them and why he came there and began to communicate with her loved ones and relatives like that. Gu Tianyi told Gu Ruoqing that she would soon become his wife and asked how she could shout at him like that and had to be obedient. Gu Tianyi asked Gu Ruoqing where his father was because he wanted to see his beloved dad now and have a heart-to-heart talk with him. Zhao told Gu Tianyi that he should not look for him and Gu Qingmu conspired with the bandits and wanted to attack, but he died a couple of days ago. Gu Tianyi was very surprised by Zhao Guanjia's words and said that it was impossible and he didn't want to believe it and it was a blatant lie. Gu Ruoqing took out something and told Gu Tianyi that it was Gu Qingmu's family mark and every person in the caravan could confirm it. Gu Tianyi asked how could this happen because his father invited 5-star warriors to help and how could he lose in the battle. Gu Tianyi said that the branch of the Gu family had long dreamed of the strength of the main family and it was dirty to use such cruel methods. Gu Tianyi said that even if his father was dead, his sister was the wife of a city lord and they would not be able to fight such a woman. Zhao Guanjia asked Lady Gu not to behave rashly and Gu Tianyi's sister is the city's favorite concubine and it will be very difficult for them. Gu Tianyi said that besides, Gu Chuan was in a coma and how Gu Ruoqing wanted to stop him and he invited her to go with him and be his wife. Wu Shuangzi called Gu Tianyi a bastard and said that today he would tear out his tongue so that he could no longer say such dirty things. Gu Ruoqing asked Uncle Wu Shuangzi to calm down and said that this Gu Tianyi is not worth getting angry over such an idiot. Gu Ruoqing said that now her father was on the verge of life and death, and as his daughter, she was obliged to look after him and the Gu family. Gu Ruoqing told Gu Tianyi that for the sake of her father Gu Chuan, she would take care of him personally and protect him from all enemies herself. Zhao Guanjia and Wu Shuangyi were very surprised and asked Lady Gu Ruoqing what she was going to do and whether she really wanted to fight him. Gu Tianyi said that she was an ordinary person who had not awakened her fighting spirit and wondered why she wanted to fight him. Gu Ruoqing said that if she wins, then his Gu branch will be expelled from Qingyang city and they will not interfere with the Gu chamber. Gu Tianyi became very interested and asked Gu Ruoqing what would happen if she lost and what conditions she wanted to present in advance. Gu Ruoqing told Gu Tianyi that if she loses, he can do whatever he wants to her and she will not refuse it. Gu Tianyi told Gu Ruoqing that he couldn't kill her because she had to marry him, and at that very moment he had another idea. Gu Tianyi told Gu Ruoqing that he would slowly torture her after the wedding to get revenge on her for hurting his father. Gu Tianyi told Ruoqing that she can rest assured that he will take care of the development and growth of the Gu family and make it great. Gu Ruoqing was very angry at Gu Tianyi's words and said that he was trash and wanted to hit him so that he would shut his mouth. But Gu Tianyi easily dodged her blow and thought that Gu Ruoqing was very slow and it was not at all difficult for him to defeat her. Gu Ruoqing realized that she couldn't reach him with her punches and realized that she should try to hit Gu Tianyi with her foot. And then Gu Ruoqing kicked Gu Tianyi with her foot, but he also dodged the blow and told her that her legs were very smooth. Gu Ruoqing called him a bastard and told him to shut his mouth and swung her hand to hit him in the face to shut him up forever. But Gu Tianyi also dodged the blow and thought that his beloved was so aggressive and he even really liked that about her. But then suddenly Gu Tianyi struck back at Gu Ruoqing and hit her in the face with his weapon and she was in great pain from this blow. Gu Tianyi said that he can't wait to marry her so that she will follow all his orders and be a good wife. Gu Tianyi smiled and told Gu Ruoqing that she would still be his beloved and began to approach her to strike again. Gu Tianyi immediately struck with his weapon, but Li Qingniu put out his hand and deflected his blow and saved Gu Ruoqing from severe pain. Gu Ruoqing was surprised to see brother Li Qingniu, and he did not want to leave from there and wanted to stand to the end to protect Miss Gu. Gu Tianyi asked where this bastard Li Qingniu came from and how dare he spoil the master's pleasure at such a good moment. He told Gu Tian that his name was Li Qingniu, and instead of Gu Ruoqing, he would fight him so that the forces would be equal and there would be a fair battle. Gu Tinjia told Li Qingniu that he was social trash and how he wanted to fight with the master because he even had such dirty clothes. Li Qingniu said that these are the new clothes that Lady Gu Ruoqing gave him, and these are the best clothes in the world that nothing compares to. But Gu Tianyi attacked Li Qingniu and asked him not to blame him for his own death, because he himself voluntarily agreed to this. Li Qingniu listened to Gu Tianyi's words and he said that he sincerely hopes that he will become richer and wear better clothes. Gu Tianyi swung his weapon and told Li Qingniu that he would achieve all this in his next life when he goes to heaven. But then suddenly Gu Tianyi froze in surprise and was in shock and did not understand what happened and how this was possible in this world. Li Qingniu grabbed Gu Tianyi's weapon tightly and asked why he was so worried about what he was wearing and why it was so interesting. Li Qingniu said to Gu Tianyi, was it really so important what he was wearing and what did it have to do with the battle, because he didn't understand it. And then Li Qingniu swung his hand and told Gu Tianyi that he would now answer for all his dirty words addressed to Gu Ruoqing and his other friends. Li Qingniu hit Gu Tianyi with his fist and said that fashionable clothes did not make him excellent and did not add strength to him. Gu Tianyi was slammed into the wall by such a strong blow, and his people realized that Master Gu had just been beaten by this stranger. Gu Tianyi's people decided that they would return and tell Mrs. Yang ran about this and let her avenge Master Gu Tianyi and beat Li Qingniu. Zhao Guanjia said that Gu Tianyi was beaten and he was afraid that his sister, the city ruler's concubine, would not let them go and would soon take revenge on them. Li Qingniu began to quickly run after Gu Tianyi's people, and Zhao asked Brother Li not to let them run away so that they would report this to his sister. But Li Qingniu froze in surprise and thought what he just saw, and he couldn't find a rational explanation for it. Li Qingniu didn't notice anyone and wondered where everyone had disappeared, and a huge red strange glow appeared in front of him and blinded him. And then suddenly a saber-toothed tiger appeared in front of him, and Li Qingniu thought that it must be a beast purified by Lady Gu's father. But Li Qingniu didn't understand why he could see him and what appeared on his forehead, and it was some kind of strange yellow glow. And then Li Qingniu directed a beam from his head at the saber-toothed tiger and began to destroy the powerful five-star beast. Li Qingniu began to remember words from his mind when he was called stupid and asked how he wanted to see the world and how to get out into it. The old man told Li Qingniu that he would give him one eye to help him see the world, because in this world it was very dangerous but interesting. Li Qingniu asked the blind grandfather where the eye itself was, and at that time in the village of Xiaoman, the blind grandfather actually gave him one eye. And then Li Qingniu heard what Gu Ruoqing told Dad. Had he really woken up and wondered what the Gu family was talking about? Li Qingniu turned around and noticed Gu Chuan behind him, and he said that he was purifying wild bones and fell into a coma, but did he really wake up later? Gu Chuan asked about Gu Chengmu and how this old thief dared to do this, and if he was not dead then he promised to personally finish him off. Wu Shuangs told Gu Chuan that he was worthy of a 7-star warrior and a different energy emanated from him and he wanted to become just like him. Gu Chuan told Li that he was capable of defeating a 5-star warrior with one blow, and this was an amazing and rare ability. Li Qingniu told Gu Chuan that he was wrong and he was still weak and he was able to defeat that person because he was weaker than him. Gu Chuan smiled and told Li that he was too modest and wondered if he was weaker than him because he was the best in Qingyang City. Li Qingniu was sorry that Gu Tianyu ruined his clothes that Gu Ruoqing gave him, and these were the best clothes he wore. Gu Ruoqing smiled and told Li Qingniu that there was no problem and she would sew up his clothes later and they would be as good as new. Gu Chuan was surprised and asked if these were his clothes that he wore when he was young, and they looked good on Li Qingniu. Zhao Guanjia told Gu Chuan that this was the first time Lady Gu Ruoqing gave a gift to a guy, and it was very interesting. At this time, the ruler of the city of Qingyang named Yang Li asked his people where this impudent man was and said that he would kill him. Gu Chuan greeted Mr. Yang and said that he was very happy to see him in these places and his entire family respected him very much. Yang Li told Gu Chuan that his daughter conspired with the murderer and killed his concubine's brother and father and how he greeted him. Li Qingyo told Yang Li that he was wrong and that old man tried to kill them and his son wanted a wedding and they were to blame for everything. Yang Li got very angry and asked Li Qingyo what he said and whether it was he who killed them and whether he was afraid to tell the whole truth so easily. Yang Li asked Li Qingyo if he was afraid to look for problems with him and he definitely wanted to die by communicating with him without due respect. And then Yang Li's fist began to burn and he rushed at Li Qingyo and wanted to punish him for what he did to the brother and father of his concubine. Li Qingyo thought that he wished he had this martial arts spirit and was quite strong and very self-confident. All of Li Qingyo's friends watched their battle with interest and realized that the head of the city was a very strong and experienced fighter with experience. But Li Qingyo felt very confident and did not want to run away from there, and on the contrary, he clenched his strong fist with all his might. And then Li Qingyo rushed into a retaliatory attack on Yang Li and his fist also began to glow and he became a very strong and powerful fighter. Yan Li flew to the wall from such a blow and thought that even 9-star warriors with great experience could not withstand this blow. But Yang Li realized that Li Qingyo not only stopped his blow, he was even able to hit him back and he was wondering who this guy was. Gu Ruoqing couldn't believe her eyes and said that Li Qingyo really counterattacked Yang Li and how was this possible now? Yang Li was very angry with Li Qingyo and thought that no one could fight him on equal terms and how did this young impudent man do it? Yang Li stood up and almost came close to Li Qingyo and he thought that he should be prepared for the fact that the head could strike him. Yang Li silently looked at Li Qingyo and thought about how he could defeat this impudent person and all the people silently looked at them from the side. But suddenly Yang Li told Li Qingyo that his strength was extraordinary and he was impressed and asked if he could now find out his name. He said that his name was Li Qingyo and he had a good punch, but it was much weaker than the punch of an ordinary grandfather in his village. Yang Li wondered if Li Qingyo was an elite student of a large family, and in any case, he needed to check something now. Yang Li smiled and told Li Qingyo that what happened today was a misunderstanding and he had to leave there now for business. The concubine asked Yang Li how he could let them go because he was the ruler of the city of Qingyang and what could he be afraid of in this world. But Yang Li hit the concubine in the face with all his might and told her to shut up and said that she was a fool and they should quickly leave from there. Gu Chuan was very surprised and asked his brother Li Qingyo which family he came from because he had never heard of him in this city before. Li Qingyo said that he had no family and that he had just left the village, but this was a very strange answer to Gu Chuan's question. Gu Chuan said that since brother Li Qingyo was feeling awkward, he wouldn't ask him many questions, but he didn't believe him at all. Gu Chuan told Li Qingyo that now he did not feel any trace of martial arts spirit in him and did he really have no spirit? Li Qingyo said that he did not have a spirit yet and asked how he could awaken the spirit because he wanted to become even stronger than ever. Gu Ruoqing approached her father and asked on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce if brother Li Qingyo could be accepted into the martial arts academy. Gu Chuan listened to his dear daughter and said that brother Li Qingyo had helped them a lot and of course he could be accepted there without any problems. Gu Chuan said that tomorrow is the day of reception of students and he will personally take him there and if both he and Ruoqing do well, it will be great. Li Qingyo couldn't believe his ears and wondered if this was true and said a big thank you to Gu Chuan and thought about his fighting spirit. Li Qingyo wondered why the blind grandfather never told him anything about the spirit of martial arts when he was very young. After that, they set off and Gu Chuan showed Li Qingyo these places and after a couple of hours he said that they had come to the right place. Li Qingyo saw this building and froze in surprise and was shocked because he had never seen such huge and beautiful buildings before. Gu Chuan said that this is their martial arts academy in Qingyang City and Li Qingyo said that he is very impressed and it is huge. Gu Chuan brought Li Qingyo to a man named Yuecheng and told brother Li that this was the dean of Qingyang Academy and he could ask him questions. Li Qingyo and Gu Ruoqing said good afternoon to Mr. Yuecheng and he said his name and said that he was honored to study at the academy. Yuecheng asked brother Gu Chuan if this was the same child he sent this year because his face seemed very familiar to him. Gu Chuan agreed with Yuecheng and said that their family cannot raise good students like brother Li and needs help. Yuecheng told them that later they would take the test with other students and thought why Gu Chuan praises Li Qingyo so much because he is ordinary. Gu Chuan told Li Qingyo that the tests are divided into two categories and the first test for students is star affinity. Gu Chuan told Li Qingniu that this first test would test the star power of each student. Yuecheng asked the first candidate to put his hand on the stone and the level would be determined by the color of the stone, and he had the lowest level Mo Wuxin. Shui Yu had a star level of the middle-class self-defense spirit called Ice Sword, and this is a very good level. And when Gu Ruoqing put her hand on the induction stone, she had the highest level and self-defense spirit of Ganoderma as a group of mushrooms. Yuecheng told Gu Ruoqing from the Gu Chamber of Commerce that she had the highest class level and it was the highest class star level. Gu Chuan stood and was proud of his daughter Gu Ruoqing and said that it was worthy of his talented and beautiful daughter. Gu Ruoqing approached Li Qingniu and happily said that she too could be a star warrior and that was very cool and interesting. Gu Ruoqing told Li Qingniu whether she could find out what kind of fighting spirit Brother Li had because she was very interested to know about it. And at that moment the presenter said that Li Qingniu was next on the list and he invited him to the stone to check the level of strength. Li Qingniu immediately jumped to the stone and thought that now he would surprise all the people who had gathered there and they would be delighted. Li Qingniu immediately put his hand on the stone and bright red waves immediately began to flow from there, which meant that he was very strong. Yuecheng and Gu Chuan looked closely at Li Qingniu and were very interested in finally knowing the real level of the warrior. All the people gathered asked who this candidate was, from whom the stone emitted bright and dazzling rays. All the people closed their eyes because the beam that came from Li Qingniu's energy was simply dazzling and it was interesting. Gu Chuan froze in surprise and was shocked and realized that Li Qingniu was very strong and initially he could not even think of such strength. But Gu Chuan realized that there was something wrong there, because an ordinary villager could not be so strong and it was strange. All the people looked at Li Qingniu and waited for the result of his spirit of self-defense because he was very tall like warriors. Zhao also couldn't believe his eyes and realized that Li Qingniu had a very high star rating and in the future he could become a great warrior. But Zhao looked at the stone and thought that this couldn't be because he didn't see Li Qingniu's spirit of self-defense, and why was it like that? All the people looked at the stone and thought that Li Qingniu was very strong and at the same time he lacked the spirit of a fighter's self-defense. Gu Chuan also realized that he had no spirit and he did not expect such an outcome and it was very bad and they needed to come up with something. People told Li Qingniu that he did not have the spirit of martial arts, and then what was the use of such a high stardom like him? Yuecheng asked why Li Qingniu did not have the spirit of self-defense for such a star class because it was very strange. Yuecheng approached Li Qingniu and said that he had fantastic results but for some reason he did not have the spirit of self-defense. At this time, a mysterious stranger was looking at Li Qingniu from the roof of the building and he saw the result that Li Qingniu showed on the stone. The man smiled and clearly had his own plans, which he carefully thought through slowly on the roof of a tall building. After this, Li Qingniu sat near the lake and asked for forgiveness from both his grandmother and blind grandfather because he did not have the spirit. Li Qingniu was crying near the lake and someone asked him who told him that he could not be stronger without the spirit of self-defense, and that was nonsense. The stranger asked Li Qingniu not to get attached to the concept of the spirit of self-defense because he could achieve a lot without it. The stranger asked Li Qingniu if he knew why there were so many strong disciples and warriors on the Starry Sky continent. Li Qingniu looked at the stranger and did not understand his words, but he was very interested in learning something new about these students and warriors. The stranger said that the continent of the Starry Sky is divided into wild lands where animals and fighting lands where people and warriors live. The stranger said that he doesn't know why, but wild animals are grouping up to attack human lands and cause damage to them. The stranger said that in order to repel the attacks of wild animals, a large number of students and cool warriors appeared. But the stranger said that stardom is not the center of true power and cannot show the true strength of a great warrior and fighter. He said that true warriors can break through the stars and step to the level of the Starry Sky, and this is the strongest level of a fighter. Li Qingniu thought that they must be the most powerful creatures on earth, and it's a pity that he doesn't have the spirit and he can't become like that. The guy asked Li Qingniu if he really thought that he could not become very strong without some kind of spirit of self-defense fighters. The stranger said that Li Qingniu had such a strong aura and it was even stronger than Master Gu Chuan and the city leader Yang Li. The stranger said that he, like Li Qingniu, was a person without the spirit of self-defense, but he could still step into the sky level. Li Qingniu asked the stranger if he could become stronger without the spirit of self-defense and also reach the level of the Starry Sky. Li Qingyo asked the elder who he was and how he knew so much information about the star level and great warriors. The stranger told Li Qingyo that he was the first emperor of the starry sky and his name was Nushwang, and he was very glad to meet him. Li Qingyo remembered that his grandmother also never used the spirit of self-defense but was stronger than many experienced warriors. Li Qingyo looked at Nushwang and realized that the aura and strength of the person in front of him was clearly not comparable to grandma's strength, and he was powerful. And then Li Qingyo fell to his knees in front of Nushwang and said that the student greets the mighty and strong teacher Nushwang. Li Qingyo asked teacher Nushwang to help him become stronger because he himself could not achieve this, although he had dreamed of it since childhood. Nushwang smiled and asked Li Qingyo if he really wanted to become stronger, and it was very interesting for him and he wanted to help him. Nushwang waited a couple of seconds and told Li Qingyo that he accepts him as his student and will help him become stronger and surpass his teacher. Nushwang told Li that he saw what happened at the academy, and even if he had no fighting spirit, he could still create stellar energy. Li Qingyo asked how he could do this, and the strong people he met were martial spirits with different attributes. Nushwang told Li Qingyo that if his body is strong enough and the meridians are wide, then the body works as a container. Nushwang told Li Qingyo that he should use his body as a tool and the meridians as river channels, and then everything will be fine. Nushwang asked Li Qingyo to absorb the spirit of heaven and earth, and he realized that the enormous star power had merged with the star flow. Nushwang froze in surprise and thought that Li Qingyo's star region was magnificent, and he did not expect such powerful power from it. Li Qingyo sat down and, closing his eyes, began to do what the teacher told him, and he accumulated a lot of energy around himself that he had dreamed of. And then suddenly Li Qingyo splashed out all his energy throughout this entire area, and everything around him was covered with a bright blue glow. Nushwang couldn't understand what Li Qingyo had just done and said that he had easily reached the first stage of a star warrior. Nushwang looked at Li Qingyo and thought that this kid was a demon, and he had great speed that he had never seen before. Nushwang told Li Qingyo that he was able to reach the level of a star warrior so quickly when others cannot do this even in their entire lives. Li Qingyo was surprised and asked the teacher if what he did now made him a star warrior, and that was great. At that very second, Li Qingyo's head lit up again and he told the teacher that he felt everything in his body was full of energy. Nushwang approached Li Qingyo and asked if it was the eye of emptiness, and he asked the teacher if he saw something on his face. Teacher Nushwang asked Li Qingyo to tell him where he got the third eye on his forehead because it was very interesting to him. Li Qingyo told the teacher that he received the third eye on his forehead from his blind grandfather, and he himself had no idea about its purpose. Nushwang was shocked and asked the student if he was talking about the blind grandfather and wanted details without leaving out a single detail. Li Qingyo agreed to tell Master Nushwang everything and said that one day he was born in a small village in a wild forest. Li Qingyo said that his family consisted of a deaf grandmother, of a blind grandfather, and a big black cow in the village, and it was good. Li Qingyo said that one day a mysterious man appeared in the sky, and then he said goodbye to his grandparents. Nushwang asked Li Qingyo where his village was and asked him to answer his question as quickly as possible without wasting time. Li Qingyo said that he only knows that in the north of Qingyang City there are a lot of strange stones in the vicinity, and he remembered it. The teacher listened carefully to Li Qingyo's words and thought about the strange stones, and it seemed to him a very familiar place. Nushwang asked Li Qingyo whether he was telling the truth and whether these strange stones were in that direction and flew somewhere. Nushwang told Li Qingyo that he would be back soon, but for now he could go and wait for him at Gu's house because it was very safe there. Nushwang left a book for Li Qingyo and said that this was the experience of many years of his cultivation and he should have read it first. Li Qingyo took the book in his hands and thought why the teacher was so worried, and he was acting very strange and something had changed in him. And then Gu Chuan and Gu Ruoqing came running to Li Qingyo, and he asked Brother Li if he was really here and said that they had been looking for him for a long time. Gu Chuan said that it didn't matter to them, and even if he couldn't become a star warrior, he could stay in his house and improve. Li Qingyo said thank you to President Gu Chuan but said that he had plans today and would return back as soon as he finished everything. Li Qingyo thought that he didn't know when the teacher would return, so he would go to the wild forest to train and test his new strength. Gu Ruoqing looked at Li Qingyo and thought that he had cheered up so quickly after his failure, and it was very good for everyone. Li Qingyo thought that there were so many secret techniques in this book left by the teacher, and it seems he won't have time to finish reading it today. And at that very second, Li Qingyo heard the voices of people in the wild forest and thought that someone was in danger and they needed help. Li Qingyo stood up and quickly ran towards the sounds and thought that he wanted to try something he had learned from the teacher's book. Li Qingyo immediately used the technique from the book and disappeared from there and thought that the technique of emerging from the ground was very unusual. Li Qingyo thought that he could use this technique not only for teleportation, but also to see events happening on Earth. Some people were fighting with different monsters and Li Qingyo saw something interesting and said that this was really the same thing. Li Qingyo couldn't believe his eyes because he saw the girl's bloody spirit grass and thought that this grass was very valuable. Li Qingyo remembered that the blood spirit grass is one of the main ingredients for pills and it can help people evolve. But the presence of blood spirit grass could attract wild animals and make them more cruel and people had to be careful. Li Qingyo thought that it was not surprising that there were so many wild beasts there, and he was afraid that these people would not be able to cope with the monsters. At this time, the man was fighting with wild animals and turned around and asked the young miss to be careful and protect herself from monsters. And at that very second a wild beast ran towards the young miss and the man looked at it but could not do anything because he was busy. The wild beast began to quickly run towards the young girl and she could not run away from there and just silently watched him. The wild beast almost came close to her and the young miss closed her eyes and thought that her days were numbered and she would soon die. But then when the young miss did not expect this, Li Qingyo appeared in front of her and hit the wild beast with all his might and knocked him out forever. The young miss hid behind Li Qingyo and asked her brother to help them and said that she would reward him later and he would be very pleased. Li Qingyo agreed with the young miss and said that it was not difficult for him and now he will quickly help them defeat these predatory monsters. Li Qingyo quickly ran towards the monsters and thought that now they would definitely be in trouble and would regret attacking people. Li Qingyo approached the wild beast and quickly struck him with a powerful blow and said that he had now tasted his famous leg. Li Qingyo walked up to the second monster and hit it with all his might with his fist and knocked it out with one blow as it was powerful. Li Qingyo began to deal with all the monsters and it was not at all difficult for him to beat them one by one and destroy these monsters. The man finally sighed and said that he barely managed to escape and he miraculously escaped from these monsters and he had already lost hope. The man thought where this mysterious warrior came from because he hadn't even noticed his presence until now and didn't know when he came. The man looked at Li Qingyo and thought how one person could defeat all these wild beasts and what kind of strength he must have. The man thought who this warrior was and Li Qingyo asked him if he was okay and how he felt after the attack by these beasts. The young miss approached Li Qingyo and thanked him for saving their lives and asked his name and he told her his name. The girl told Li Qingyo that she was a young miss from the Tang family and her name was Tang Yu and she was very grateful to him for such help. Tang Yu introduced everyone and said that these four were the strongest warriors in the Tang family and they were very experienced. Tang Yu told Li Qingyo that they discovered the bloody spirit grass but did not expect that it would attract a flock and thanks to him they were saved. Li Qingyo took the blood spirit herb and told Tang Yu that he was glad to help them and thought that this herb was rare and he would deal with it later. Tang Yu looked at Li Qingyo and thought that she didn't know why Brother Li went alone to the wild forest where there were many monsters. But Tang Yu wanted Brother Li to help them find something and said that after they return, he will immediately receive his reward. Li Qingyo turned around and asked Tang Yu what they were looking for there and wanted to first listen to detailed information about this thing. Tang Li asked his brother Li Qingyo if he had ever heard of the golden spirit stones because there were so many legends about it. Li Qingyo was surprised and asked Tang Li what kind of golden spirit stone he meant and asked what it was because he didn't know anything about her. Tang Li said that it was a type of ore that could only be found in the Golden Mountains and it was very rich in energy. Tang Li said that the golden spirit stone was perfect for people with metal martial souls and helped them a lot. Tang Yu told Li Qingyo that her father was seriously wounded in battle and needed a golden spirit stone for treatment and nothing helped. But then Li Qingyo interrupted Tang Yu and told her that he understood everything and there were no problems and he would do everything and help them in their search. Li Qingyo said that it was important to save human life and therefore he would go with them because he wanted to help people. Tang Yu listened to Li Qingyo and asked if he really had no fighting spirit but then why was he so strong and brave. Li Qingyo said that even though he had no fighting spirit, he wanted to become stronger, and that is why he came to this wild forest. Tang Yu suggested that Li Qingniu, after they find these stones, go together to her Tang family and her father will really like him. Moji told Mofeng that the lady seemed to like this village bastard and that's why she ignored him so much for Li's sake. Mofeng told Moji that Li Qingniu was a waste of time with no fighting spirit and he didn't care because he was nothing. A couple of minutes later, Tang Li told young Miss Tang Yu that they were there and it was the Golden Mountains that surrounded the place so beautifully. The Tang team led by Miss Tang Yu began searching for the Golden Spirit Stones and Li Qingniu also tried his best and searched with everyone. And then suddenly Tang Yu pointed her finger at a place in the mountain and told everyone that she had found what they were looking for and it was a Golden Spirit Stone. Tang Yu approached the Golden Spirit Stone and wanted to get it with a knife, and she didn't think that it would be found so quickly because it was very rare. But Tang Yu couldn't get the stone because there was a huge roar, everything around her was covered with dust and small stones. Tun Li told everyone that something was wrong there and asked young Miss to be careful and go back and prepare for danger. But suddenly a huge stone silhouette began to appear in front of Tang Yu and it was a giant magical beast with a golden horn. Tang Yu realized that it was a giant with a golden horn and he used golden spirit stones as bait to finish off all the people. The giant monster with a golden horn was very angry with Tang Yu and wanted to strike to free the world from her once and for all. But at that very second, Li Qingniu appeared in front of Tang Yu and he punched the giant monster's fist and saved the young miss from such danger. Li Qingniu hugged young Miss Tang Yu and thought that it was good that he managed to save her from the monster in time because she could have gotten hurt. Tan Li said that the giant with the golden horn was not an ordinary beast and he was wise and very cunning and they should be very careful. And afterwards, Tan Li quickly jumped towards the monster and struck it with his weapon, but nothing had any effect on this strong monster. Qin Yao ran up from below the monster and wanted to tie his legs to deprive him of movement and help his teammates. But the monster became very angry at such actions of the Tang team, and immediately a bright glow appeared from the monster and all the warriors flew away. Li Qingniu thought about what these warriors were doing and realized that it was impossible to defeat the monster this way and he could only try it. Li Qingniu thought that the physical defense of the Golden Horn Giants was very strong, but for some reason his fighting spirit was very weak. Li directed a beam at the monster's head and thought that in the teacher's notes they wrote that the eye of the void is an eye that can attack the soul. And then suddenly the giant monster exploded into small pieces and Li Qingniu was glad that he managed to defeat it. But Li Qingniu realized that he was still weak and the eye of emptiness had absorbed all his star power and he should rest and gain strength. A member of Team Tang was hit by a stone and asked brother Li Qingniu to save him and help him because he could no longer stand on his feet. Li Qingniu quickly ran to Mofeng and grabbed him and said that he was holding him and asked him not to worry and said that he would not let go. But Mofeng smiled slyly at Li Qingniu and grabbed him tightly by the shoulder, and he realized that he was thinking about something very bad and vile. And at that moment, Mofeng kicked Li Qingniu with all his might and said that he could go to hell and Li Qingniu rushed down the high cliff. Li Qingniu flew down and thought that there was such a vile person on the team and Miss Tang Yu. But in vain he didn't know about this scoundrel before. Mofeng shouted at Li Qingniu and said that Tang Yu was his girlfriend and he could not even think of taking his sweetheart from under his nose. Li Qingniu thought that Mofeng could just wait and if he himself did not die, he would definitely return and finish him off with his own hands. Li Qingniu thought that he sacrificed himself to save other people and in return he received only vile betrayal from Mofeng. A couple of minutes later, Li Qingniu fell into some pond and said thank you to Mofeng for giving him this lesson and he will not forget it. Li Qingniu immediately got out of the water and thanked God for the fact that he fell into the pond and was very lucky that there was no earth under him. But someone asked Li Qingniu why he jumped off a cliff at such a young age and his brother must have had a very harsh life. Li Qingniu turned around and asked why he told him that he jumped off a cliff and was actually pushed down and betrayed. And then someone asked Li Qingniu what he was looking at and he was talking to him and Li saw that there was a glowing sword standing in front of him. And at that very moment, the creature next to the sword told Li Qingniu that it was part of an ancient spirit sword called the Heaven Cutter. And then Li Qingniu was surrounded by these creatures and said that they were glad to see a one-star warrior and, moreover, without fighting spirit. The creature told Li Qingniu that he was finally there and he would no longer have to hang around there and he became interested in learning about this sword. The creature told Li Qingyo that he was a cutting sword born of heaven and earth and also the best fighting spirit of metal and iron. Li Qingyo asked if the fighting spirit is not born in living beings and can it just be born naturally? The creature asked Li Qingyo if he knew how huge the sky and earth were and if he didn't see something it didn't mean it didn't exist. The creature told Li Qingyo that his last owner left him there before his death and he had been waiting for a long time for a new owner to appear. The creature told Li Qingyo that his bloodline was too strong and therefore he had no fighting spirit and needed a strong spirit. The creature asked Li Qingyo if he was ready to become his new master and if he agreed he would have the strongest fighting spirit. Li Qingyo asked the creature if he could really be his fighting spirit and said that it was great, but he had one condition. The creature wanted Li Qingyo to take revenge for his past master and the enemy was very strong and he could finish him off at any moment. Li Qingyo told the creature that there was no problem and if he was with him, then together they could defeat this strong man. The creature asked Li Qingyo to hold the hilt of the sword with both hands and at the same time open his mind and soul so that it would be easy for him. The creature told Li Qingyo that now he could pull out this sword and then it would enter his body and they would become one and brothers. Li Qingyo was happy and said that now they could begin to merge their souls and they could now become strong and invincible warriors. Li Qingyo began to pull out the sword and the creature told the owner that he had successfully inherited the spirit sword and he was very happy about it. The creature told Li Qingyo that the golden space he saw could store his sword and other things he wanted. Li Qingyo learned that these were some of the sword techniques created by his previous master and this was the Xian Miaodan sword technique. The creature told Li Qingyo that if he practiced it to perfection, he could cut anything with this sword. Li Qingyo said that it was excellent and with such sword techniques, now he will definitely become stronger and can become the strongest. Li Qingyo told Mofeng that he had survived, which meant that now he would die at his hands and he would not feel sorry for this scoundrel at all. After this, Li Qingyo returned to Qingyang City and realized that he now has a strong fighting spirit and has the highest star level. Li Qingyo was very happy and now he could easily enter any school and study martial arts so that he would no longer be weak. Li Qingyo was walking around the city and suddenly heard a familiar voice asking Magongzi not to pester her anymore and to leave her alone. Magongzi told Gu Ruoqing that he and she were the pride of their academy and they were both businessmen and made the world for each other. Gu Ruoqing told Moganzi that she was very sorry, but she was not interested in him at all and she did not want to talk to him about this topic. Gu Ruoqing at that moment thought about Li Qingyo and wondered where he was now because she really missed him and wanted to see him. And at that very second, Li Qingyo appeared in front of them and said good afternoon to Miss Gu Ruoqing and he was also happy to meet her again. Gu Ruoqing told Li Qingyo that he had finally returned because she thought that something terrible had happened to him and he was no longer there. Li Qingyo said thank you to Miss Gu Ruoqing for her concern and he said that he was just running through the wild forest and it took a lot of time. Mongzi asked Ruoqing, isn't it that trash Li Qingyo who has no fighting spirit, and did Miss really like this weakling? Li Qingyo asked him not to talk nonsense and said that he did not deserve someone like Gu Ruoqing and he could get out of there. Mongzi was a 9-star warrior and he had a fighting spirit sword of will and he asked Li Qingyo if he really wanted to die like that. Li Qingyo stood right in front of Magongzi and he also took out his new sword that he had recently acquired and prepared for a tough battle. But Li Qingyo cut Magongzi's sword in half without any problems, and he did not understand where this weakling had such powerful strength. Li Qingyo quickly ended this battle and told Moganzi that he would not repeat it again and told him to quickly get out of there now. Magongzi quickly began to run away from there and told Li Qingyo that this time he had won and thought that he should have left quickly. Gu Ruoqing asked brother Li Qingyo if it was his fighting spirit and said that he was simply magnificent and incomparable, unlike everyone else. Li Qingyo told Miss Gu Ruoqing that he received his long-awaited fighting spirit by accident and he himself did not look for it and came across it by chance. Li Qingyo thought how many secrets he hid in his body and it was good that no one knew about his little secret and new brother. But then someone behind him told Li Qingyo that his fighting spirit was indeed very good and it seemed like he had recently had a fateful meeting. Li Qingyo turned around and noticed that it was Nushuang speaking and told the teacher that he was glad to see him back and missed him very much. A couple of hours later, Li Qingyo asked the teacher where he had been for the last few days and whether he managed to find anything. Teacher Nushuang told his student that he had not found anything and just wanted to find something there and make sure of one of his questions. The teacher told Li that he didn't know what kind of adventure he had, but he was sincerely glad that he got himself such a strong spirit. The teacher told Li that his understanding of star power was on the right track and he had a strong spirit and there was nothing more to teach him. Nushwang told Li Qingyo that this fire spirit armor was his gift to him and he had to do something and it would take a while. Li Qingyo asked the teacher where he should go after he left or should he stay at Qingyang Academy to learn skills. The teacher told Li Qingyo that his development would be slowed down if he stayed there and that soon the Tianqing Celestial Academy would begin recruiting. Nushwang told the student that he should try to go there because Tianqing Academy is an academy that will greatly speed up his development. Li Qingyo bowed to his teacher and said that his devoted student understood everything and he would soon go to Tianqing Celestial Academy. Nushwang flew away and said that he hoped that the next time they saw each other, Li Qingyo would surpass him and said goodbye to him. The spirit told Master Li that his teacher was very worried right now but he was still too weak to help him with the task now. The creature told Li Qingyo that he needed to become stronger and he could not let his teacher down because he treated him so well. At this time, someone was chasing Xiaomei and told her that she would not run away from him and that he would now catch up with her and punish her for such behavior. The scoundrel asked Xiaomei to just be a good girl and let him catch him because he really wanted to do it right now. But when the villain approached Xiaomei, someone scratched his cloak and he thought what idiot dared to interfere with his good plans. Li Qingyo lay on a stack of hay and asked the scoundrel who he was and why he was chasing Xiaomei and said that he ruined his dream. The scoundrel got angry and asked Li Qingyo who he thinks he is to ask him questions and lie on the hay and not worship him. The creature asked its master Li Qingyo to be careful and said that this man had such a fighting spirit as an eagle's beak. Li Qingyo prepared to defend himself from the villain's attack and his spirit said that the claws and beak of each eagle were very poisonous and dangerous. But Li Qingyo used his technique and immediately began to destroy all the villain's eagles and it was very easy for him to break his fighting spirit. The scoundrel was surprised and asked Li Qingyo how he did it because it was impossible and many warriors could not cope with his hordes. Li Qingyo said that his sword was too fast and he thought that was why his opponent could not see his attack on his eagles. The scoundrel told Li Qingyo that since he was so busy chatting, he wouldn't waste time and would bury him right there and end the battle. And at that moment the villain turned his energy into a huge and terrible eagle and began to scream and it was a deafening noise. Xiaomei closed her ears and could no longer listen to this cry of the eagle and this noise blew her mind and she wanted him to shut up quickly. Li Qingyo told the scoundrel that he was thinking the same thing and he thought that he himself was more annoying than him and pissed off all the other people. And then Li Qingyo rushed to the fighter with a sword in his hands and said that now he would feel his real strength and evaluate his skill. Li Qingyo effortlessly defeated a huge eagle with his sword and the fighter looked at him and could not figure out how to win against this warrior. The fighter asked Li Qingyo if he really thought he could finish him off, but Li quickly ran up to him and finished him off in seconds. The next morning, Xiaomei woke up in the hay. Yesterday, after the deafening cries of an eagle, she lost consciousness and woke up. Xiaomei was very worried and thought where she was and someone had already treated her wounds and she was wondering who could do this. Li Qingyo asked the miss if she woke up and Xiaomei asked him who he was and whether he bandaged and treated her yesterday's wounds. Li Qingyo told Xiaomei that his name was Li Qingyo and she was sent away and he had to suck all the poison out of her to save her. She told brother Li Qingyo thank you for saving her life and said that her name is Murong Lanyu and he was very brave and courageous yesterday. Murong Lanyu said that she wanted to apply to Tianqing Academy, but on the way there she came across this cunning thief. Li Qingyo told her that he was also heading to Tianqing Celestial Academy and if she wanted she could go with him and be safe. Murong Lanyu asked Li Qingyo if he was telling the truth and that was great for them, she hoped that she would not interfere with him on the way. The creature asked the owner Li Qingyo not to let her beauty deceive him and he told the spirit that he was always in control. And a few days later, Li Qingyo and Murong Lanyu came to the glacial region and Tianqing was a very mysterious academy. Murong Lanyu said that the legend said that this academy was hidden in this glacial region but no one knew where it was. The creature told Li Qingyo that if he wanted to get into the Celestial Academy, he must first find it and he only wanted to keep warm. And the spirit suggested that Li Qingyo just take Murong into his arms to warm up and he thought, are all swords really so immoral? But at that very second, Murong Lanyu quickly ran to Li Qingyo and fell into his arms because she was frozen and had no strength left. The creature told Li Qingyo that he was just joking and he himself would teach him the simplest method of forming an array of energy. The creature told Li Qingyo that not only could it keep them warm, but it could also be used for self-defense in times of danger. And then the spirit of the sword surrounded Li Qingyo and Murong Lanyu with a ball and began to warm them and save them from the freezing cold in these places. Murong began to come to her senses and she was already moving her arms and legs and her body began to fill with strength from the warmth in this ball. Li Qingyo looked at Murong Lanyu and was glad that she had finally warmed up a little, and the sword spirit at that moment helped both of them a lot. And after a couple of minutes, the warm ball disappeared and the creature told the owner Li Qingyo that the weather had already cleared up and it was time to continue on its way. Li Qingyo felt that his body was filled with limitless power and the creature congratulated the owner on moving to a new level. The being told Li Qingyo that he was now able to enter the cultivation state to absorb star power even while sleeping. The spirit of the ancient sword told the owner Li Qingyo that now he could become even stronger, and then Murong Lanyu began to wake up. Li Qingyo hugged Murong and was glad that she was okay, and she thanked Li for saving her from frostbite in this mountain. And then Murong Lanyu asked brother Li Qingyo to look there and said that she saw something very interesting in this place. And there a huge palace appeared and Murong Lanyu told brother Li Qingyo that they had found it and this was definitely the Tianqing Heavenly Academy. And after a couple of minutes at the Tianqing Heavenly Academy, the man said that his name was Yuntian and he would introduce them to all the rules. Yuntian told all the guests that he had the honor to guide them all through this exam, and Li Qingyo realized that Yuntian could fly. Li Qingyo was surprised and wondered if Yuntian was a 6th level warrior, and he wondered when he would also reach that level. He could float in the air, and Li Qingyo asked his spirit about him and he said that Yuntian was strong but he was weaker than his teacher. Yuntian said that as a welcome, Tianqing Academy would give each of them a star stone to help in their training. Yuntian asked all the people to gather in groups compared to their martial spirit attributes, and now he will give them complete information. The candidates said that it was a unique stone from the Tianqing Heavenly Academy and it helped the fighters in their cultivation of skills. The candidates said that even if they cannot enter Tianqing Academy, only receiving this stone will pay for the journey. The girl said that Yuntian was handsome and they should enter Tianqing Academy just to see him every day. But then all the stones disappeared from the chest and people did not understand what happened there because Yuntian said that everyone would get a stone. The candidates thought that someone must have secretly taken a few of these very valuable stones and was lucky. Yuntian told all the people that if anyone took more than one stone then they should leave Tianqing Academy now. Yuntian looked at all the candidates and asked if no one confessed, and indeed all the people were silent and did not make a sound. Yuntian got angry and said that in this case they will take strict measures and if they find this person they will take severe punishment. Yuntian asked the people if they really wanted him to search them now and personally find this pathetic deceiver. All the people were in shock and they had a feeling of fear and did not know what to do, because from such a warrior as Yuntian one could expect everything. Yuntian found those people who took a lot of stones and said that they did not deserve to stay in Tianqing and could go down the mountain. And then Yuntian looked at the girls and said that they too should leave the academy because they themselves didn't know why they came there. Yuntian told these naive girls that Tianqing Academy never accepted people who had no goal at all. Li Qingyo looked at this and told Murong that Yuntian deliberately allowed everyone to take the stone to see their reaction to it. Murong Lanyu told Li Qingyo that it seemed that a person's qualities were also part of this test and the academy was very strict. Yuntian told all the people who remained there to follow him to the Baishan Hall and he will explain to them the information about the next test. Yuntian said that the Baishan Hall was built in honor of the sect's ancestors and asked everyone to come forward to pay respects to the ancestors. Yuntian told the candidates whether they could stay in the academy or not, the ancestors would decide, and the first on their list was candidate Li Qingyo. Li sat down in front of the statues and heard someone say that they couldn't believe that there were people left with a divine body and they were waiting for him. Li Qingyo asked Yuntian if he had told him something, but he said that no one had said anything and asked him not to hold up the line. Li Qingyo closed his eyes and the voices said that he could hear them and this meant that they were not mistaken, and did he want to know who they were? And then a bright glow appeared in Li Qingyo's hand and voices asked him to find a way to quickly enter the realm of the Snow Peak. Yuntian told Li Qingyo that he had a metal fighting spirit and it passed and even his vision became blurred and it was great. Yuntian told Li Qingyo that he would soon inform the teacher about this and said that the next candidate in line was Murong Lanyu. And a couple of hours later, Yuntian said that Murong Lanyu, a girl named Lin Shuer and Mu Yanhao could be happy with the news. Yuntian said that the girl named Qin Yingying also could not worry about her future and sit down and rest after the exams. Yuntian said that the guys Feng Wanjia and Ming also impressed him very much and successfully passed all the exams and could now relax. Yuntian said that the last one was Li Qingyo and he also met his expectations and showed excellent results at all stages. Yuntian congratulated all the students on joining the Lingyun Hall and said that from now on he will be their most important person. Disciple Lin Shuer asked Yuntian about Lingyun Hall and asked if this was not the Tianqing Celestial Academy that she knew. Yuntian said that the Tianqing Celestial Academy has 10 halls and the exception is Baishan, which is dedicated to the ancestors. Yuntian said that the other 9 halls were responsible for training their students and they were now assigned to the Lingyun Hall. Li Qingyo listened to Yuntian and he told all the students that if they had no more questions, he would take them to this Lingyun Hall. The students entered the Lingyun Hall and Murong Lanyu noticed that many academy students were sitting there and it looked like they were meditating there. Murong Liangyu asked Elder Yuntian what these people were doing in this hall and she was very interested to know what they were doing. Yuntian said that they practice condensing water from the air and then turning the water into ice and this is training for the water spirit. Li Qingyo asked Yuntian if it was possible for other martial spirit attributes to practice in this place and learn this technique. Yuntian told Li Qingyo that it was not impossible, but only a water spirit could achieve a stronger effect from these trainings. But Li Qingyo said that it didn't seem that difficult to practice and it seemed like they could easily learn the techniques quickly. Yuntian asked Li not to think that they were just sitting and waiting for a miracle and that they had to train a lot to make it work. Li Qingyo immediately sat down on the ground and Yuntian asked the student if he really wanted to try to do it like experienced masters now. Li Qingyo sat down and thought about the condensation of water from the air and he had a metal spirit and how was this possible in this world. Li asked his spirit why he couldn't freeze the water he collected and the owner didn't know how to do this yet, but the spirit would help him. The sword spirit began to use the longitude and latitude of heaven and earth and thunder and lightning so that it could fulfill Master Li's request. But then Yuntian grabbed Li Qingyo by the shoulder and said that it was impossible to do it with just one glance and that practice was needed. Yuntian told Li Qingyo that being able to condense cold air was already amazing and he suggested going to his house. And when Yuntian touched Li Qingyo's shoulder with his hand froze and became covered with ice, and this was very unexpected for everyone. Yuntian froze in surprise and couldn't believe his eyes and could Li Qingyo really manage to do this and how is it possible? But at that moment, Li Qingyo created a huge block of ice in front of him and Yuntian managed to move away from there at the last second. People were shocked and wondered who this man was and whether they had seen him before and how he managed to do this because he was a stranger. People say that he wasn't even wearing a disciple's uniform and it looks like he was accepted today but he had already pushed away elder brother Yuntian. Yuntian stood in front of Li Qingyo's block of ice and thought that this disciple was very dangerous and could harm someone in the future. Yuntian quickly broke all of Li Qingyo's ice, but the student thought and decided that he would try to do it one last time. And then, in an instant, Li Qingyo gathered ice around himself and Yuntian wondered if he really compressed the remaining moisture so quickly. Li Qingyo made a huge monster out of ice and sent it towards Yuntian and the elder brother was shocked by such a student. The huge ice monster opened its mouth in front of Yuntian and he barely managed to escape from the monster and not get caught by its sharp fangs. Li Qingyo asked his spirit not to flirt and said that he would be in trouble if he harmed Yuntian and it was dangerous. The creature asked the owner Li Qingyo if he remembered how he did it and the owner agreed with him and asked him to calm down now. The creature told Master Li Qingyo that he had just awakened this ancient divine body and it was indeed powerful. Li Qingyo was surprised and asked the creature, the ancient divine body is what those strange voices in the ancestral hall were talking about. The creature agreed with Master Li and said that these voices told him to find him and now he has an ancient powerful body. The creature said that this was the legendary bloodline that was inherited and now Li Qingyo had his own water martial spirit. Li wondered if he really had several fighting spirits, but then why couldn't the magic stone detect these spirits? The creature told Li Qingyo that the power of the ancient body could only be discovered through cultivation and the stone was powerless. The creature told Li Qingyo that as long as he worked hard to become stronger, he would definitely succeed. At this time, the huge ice monster froze in front of the elder, and Yuntian asked Li Qingyo whether his attack on him had already stopped. Yuntian immediately tore Li Qingyo's huge ice monster to pieces and thought that the student's show was finally over. At this time, people were looking at them from a tall building, and the man asked Zhengyun if it was Yuntian's new student. Zhengyun told the man that it was true, and it seemed that the teacher was also very interested in him because he was very talented. Elder Lin Yun told Zhengyun that this new student was truly special and had a very strong spirit body. Fenggu Zhengyun said that the teacher was able to recognize in the blink of an eye that this student had a strong spiritual body and he had talent. Ling Yun told Zhengyun that besides him, Yuntian's skills were the best and he almost got hurt by this new academy student. Zhengyun said that the teacher was joking and brother Yuntian's skills were much higher than his, and how could he get hurt by Li Qingyo? Lin Yun told Zhengyun that if he thought more about his training, he could easily enter the Starry Sky level. Zhengyun said that once he reached this level, he would no longer be able to stay with the teacher, and he wanted to serve him for a couple of years. Ling Yun agreed with Fenggu Zhengyun and said that sooner or later the reputation of the Fenggu family would fall into his hands and he would rule over them. And then Yuntian said that this Li Qingyo was a very unusual student and they recruited the wrong people that they needed. And then Morong Lanyu ran to Li Qingyo and hugged him and said that he scared her, and he asked her to calm down and said everything is fine. Yuntian asked Li Qingyo not to panic and said that it was time to take all the disciples to the place where they would now live. Yuntian understood, and it was obvious to him that this was the water attribute skill that disciple Li Qingyo had just tried on him. But Yuntian could not understand how Li Qingyo with a metal fighting spirit could do this while being so strong, and this is strange. Yuntian stood and wondered if Li Qingyo was not limited by the properties of the fighting spirit and could do anything he wanted of any element. And then Yuntian was horrified and thought that it could be that Li Qingyo had more than one fighting spirit, and this gave answers to all his questions. Yuntian wanted to take all the students to their new homes, but Zhengyun came out to them and asked brother Li Qingyo to wait a minute. He said that his name was Fengshgu Zhengyun and he was a student who entered the year before Li Qingyo, and he needed to discuss something with him now. But one of the students was shocked to see him and asked Fenggu Zhengyun if he was really from the Fenggu family because he knew who he was. Zhengyun smiled and told the student that he was exactly who he was thinking about now, and he was not mistaken in his smart assumptions. The student told Zhengyun that every generation of the best children from the Fenggu family go to Tianqing Academy to train. The student told Zhengyun that it turned out it was true, and his name is Mu Yanhao, and he was very glad to meet such a warrior. But Fenggu Zhengyun did not pay any attention to the student and told brother Li Qingyo that they had to go, and he was wondering where they would go. Zhengyun told Li Qingyo that his teacher wanted to meet him personally, and he was very interested in the teacher with his talent. Mu Yanhao shouted after them and asked brother Zhengyun to take him with them too, because he wanted to go anywhere with his strong brother. Zhengyun asked Yanhao not to be afraid and said that his point would be unlocked in 15 minutes and he could not move. A couple of minutes later, Znayan brought Li Qingyo to one place, and Li said that there was no further way and asked where his teacher was. Zhengyun said that the reason why the Fenggu family is so famous is because, in addition to spirit, they are famous for their skills. But Zhengyun said that he was most good not in fighting spirit and not in skills, and Li Qingyo asked what he was good at then. And then suddenly Zhengyun's eyes lit up with a bright red color, and he thought that Li Qingyo would soon find out about everything. And at that very second, Zhengyun turned around and wanted to attack Li Qingyo and said that this is where the famous Fenggu family is very strong. Fenggu Zhengyun hit with all his might, but Li Qingyo dodged and he smashed the ground under him with his blow and was angry with him. Zhengyun continued to attack Li Qingyo without stopping and asked him who taught him such speed because he was very fast. Zhengyun came very close to Li Qingyo, and Li said that all these techniques were taught to him by one blind grandfather in the village. Zhengyun did not believe the stories about the blind grandfather and told Li Qingyo that he just wanted to deceive him and he trained elsewhere. Zhengyun asked Li Qingyo if he used these skills against brother Yuntian, and he realized that he was still weak to use this skill. Fenggu Zhengyun told Li Qingyo that he easily dodged his attacks and said that he was a weakling, and was he really mocking him? And at that very second, Zhengyun sent many combat rays towards Li Qingyo, and they could all cause him enormous damage. Li Qingyo looked at these battle rays and thought that now he would not be able to evade this attack, and thought about a plan. And then Li Qingyo put his hand in front of him and used the technique and protected himself from all the battle rays of Fenggu Zhengyun. Zhengyun looked at Li Qingyo's huge golden hand held up as protection and realized that he was a very interesting student. Li Qingyo thought that it was bad and he had to use the skill of the deaf grandmother, although he himself did not want to do it yet. Zhengyun was very surprised and said how was this possible and what kind of palm was it that Li Qingyo put out in front of him. Li Qingyo told Zhengyun that this was a skill that his deaf grandmother taught him and he remembered it when he attacked him. Zhengyun did not believe the fast grandfather and martial grandmother and asked Li not to be angry with him and he just tested his skills. Zhengyun told Li Qingyo that his star power was at the 5th or 6th level, but this palm was a higher level. Li Qingyo said that he awakened his metal martial spirit just a month ago and before that he did not know about spirits and martial arts. Fenggu Zhengyun thought for a moment and told Li Qingyo that his movements and skills were similar to a famous person in their area. Zhengyun told Li Qingyo that his movements are similar to the ghostly palm of the first empress of the Starry Sky Missouri Nishan. But Zhengyun told Li Qingyo that the legend says that Lady Mo Nishan was very beautiful and how could she be his grandmother. Li Qingyo was very surprised by Fenggu Zhengyun's words and asked him how he knew so much information about this Lady Mo Nishan. Zhengyun said that the technique he was using now was Dao Kuang's bloody rage and he was his godfather but disappeared somewhere. But at that moment Ling Yun came up to them and said that it was wonderful that they both became students of Linyuan Hall and he was very happy. Zhengyun greeted the teacher and Li Qingyo also bowed to Ling Yun and said that he was very proud to meet him in person. Teacher Lin Yun told Li Qingyo that he saw everything he did in the hall and was very impressed and therefore decided to meet in person. The teacher told Li Qingyo that he was indeed very talented and had a double fighting spirit, which was a very rare talent. But Ling Yun told Li Qingyo that as a teacher he was warning him that if he stood out too much he would get into trouble. Li Qingyo told the teacher that he understood his words and in the future he will take these things more seriously and will not let them down. The teacher agreed with the student and said that now they could take a break from work and he now needed to go to Tianqing Palace. After that, all the students who had entered the academy entered Tianqing Palace, and the 9 main halls greeted the senior man. The chief told all the students that at today's meeting they will have to discuss the issue of continuing tests on Wild Land. Lin Yun told the elder that he seemed to have forgotten what happened 6 years ago when talking about the Wild Land trials this year. The chief said that 6 years have already passed and they eliminated the traitors and how could these students become better without going through the wild forest. Senior Chifeng told the chief that Lig Yun was worried about the accident and thanks to this success they became better. Senior Chi Lei said that he agrees with Chifeng and it's time for them to start testing, otherwise it will make the world think that they are cowards. The chief listened to all influential people and said that since most of them agree, then this issue has already been completely resolved. The elders Long Wu and Qingshi agreed with the head and Ling Yun was also obliged to agree with them because they did not listen to him. After that, night came and all the students went to Tiangu Mountain to start training there and become much stronger. The students said that they were very unlucky that the tests in the Wild Land were resumed after they entered the academy. Murong Lanyu told Li Qingyo that the legend said that the site of this test was full of strange and very dangerous wild beasts. Li Qingyo asked Sister Lanyu not to worry and said that he had grown up in a wild land since childhood and would protect her from any danger. And then another student clung to Li Qingyo and asked his brother to protect him too and he would be very grateful to him for such help. The student told Li Qingyo that he did not know and in fact 6 years ago there was an uprising of the Tianqing traders in the Wild Land. But at that moment, Xinyan hit Mo Yanhao on the head and said that any student who spread rumors about the academy will be punished. Mo Yanhao was very hurt and he told his brother Feng Xinyan that he understood him and was wrong and would not do such things again. Fenggu Xinyan asked all students to be alert and aware of their surroundings in order to help them in times of danger. Xinyan said that they only have 7 days to pass the test and they must not lose to other gyms and be the best. Xinyan remembered that Ling Yun told him that he would be the leader of this trial and would lead his entire battle team there. Ling Yun told Feng that 6 years had already passed since the betrayal, but he still shouldn't take it lightly. Xinyan thought that he should not worry because the traitor was already 6 years ago in the middle of the Wild Land and could not harm them. At this time in the depths of the wild some man was sitting near the fire and he was thinking about all the things he could do. And then the monkey Fomian came up to him and told the owner that the people from the academy had finally entered Mount Tiangu. The man told the monkey that 6 years had already passed since he and the demonic beasts were waiting for students. The trader looked at his wild beasts and said that the people from Tianqing Academy would regret returning to the wild lands again. The trader said that this time he will personally make sure that no one becomes the successor of Tianqing Celestial Academy. After a couple of hours, the students finally came out of the forest and said that it was very damp there and asked teacher Yungu to take a break. Xinyan told all the disciples that there should be no wild animals in this wide area and they could rest there. And then the student told senior Xinyan that she saw some kind of light not far from the place where they stopped. Xinyan saw these flashing luminous objects and told the students that they were moving ice crystal beasts. Zhengyun was surprised to see these ice beasts and wondered why they formed so well and ran straight towards them. Zhengyun asked all students to be careful and protect themselves from the attacks of these dangerous beasts and not to be injured in any way. The ice monsters ran up to the students and began to attack them, and Zhengyun thought how the animals could work and attack together. Zhengyun destroyed one of these beasts and asked all the students to stick together and help each other at all times. Yungu understood and told Zhengyun that something was wrong there and he knew that these beasts had never attacked like that and it was strange. Yungu told everyone that it looked like a trap made especially for them and they themselves fell into this trap among the animals. The ice beasts began to freeze the students of Tianqing Academy and they directed their rays towards them and did not want to go anywhere. And at the same moment one of the animals ran up to the frozen student and dealt a strong blow to him, and it was the teacher Junior Zhang. Ice monsters surrounded the students from all sides and then some bright golden glow appeared in the air and no one saw it. And at that very second, someone directed these golden rays at the students who were frozen and they freed themselves and were saved. It was Li Qingniu and he ordered all the students to protect those frozen people and not let them get hurt by those beasts. Xinyan looked at Li Qingniu and wondered if it was his golden spirit and it was so fast that he couldn't see it. The teacher thought that it was an incredible impulse that came from the student Li Qingniu and who this brave hero really was. Yun Tian wondered if it was Li Qingniu's metal spirit and he didn't know that he had another fighting spirit that helped them. The teachers realized that Li Qingniu's water attribute was very strong, but this metal attribute could kill a lot of wild beasts. And then suddenly a huge ice crystal beast appeared in front of Li Qingniu and he realized that now things were bad. Xinyan told Li Qingniu that the monsters summoned the king of ice monsters and he was very strong and it was very difficult to defeat him. Martial Spirit told Master Li Qingniu that it seemed that someone was controlling these ice monsters and that was why they were so organized. Martial Spirit told Master Li Qingniu that he could use the Eye of Emptiness to find out who was behind this if he was interested. But then when Li Qingniu didn't expect this, he found himself in some strange place and thought what kind of place it was and where his spirit went. But then a traitor appeared in front of Li Qingniu and said that he would not find his spirit and his spiritual body had already been sealed by him. The traitor told Li Qingniu that this was both his and Li's spiritual place and they both could find answers to all interesting questions there. Li Qingniu noticed this man's badge and wondered if he was a level 9 star warrior and seemed to be very strong. Li Qingniu asked the traitor who he was and why he needed problems with the Tianqing Celestial Academy because they could also harm him. He said that he had not heard the name of this academy for a long time and he just wanted to kill a couple of people and help Tianqing shrink. She told Li Qingniu that he was the so-called traitor of Tianqing Celestial Academy and his name was Moni and he was glad to meet him. Li Qingniu asked Moni to look at himself from the outside and said that he looked just like the trash of Tianqing Celestial Academy. Moni said that it kind of pissed him off and his family were beasts and demons hiding in the wild land and many were afraid of them. Moni said that for many years his clan practiced a method of madness that controlled wild beasts and this was their gift. Moni said that since the method of madness was too cruel and destructive, the life of the clan members did not exceed 30 years. He, as the son of the clan patriarch, wanted to lead the clan in order to abandon the method of madness and study the fighting spirit and prolong his life. The demonic race had an innate talent that was better than other people in cultivating any fighting spirit. But other students said that Moni did not belong to the clan and this village garbage was disgusting and they did not like it at all. The girls at the academy said that Moni didn't notice anyone because of his good grades, because he really was very literate. Moni told Li Qingniu that because he was too blinded, he became a target for his classmates and they completely hated him. But Moni said it lasted until something intriguing and interesting happened in the wild land 6 years ago. The students attacked Moni and said that he was from a demonic clan and an accomplice of wild beasts and why he studied at the academy. Students asked Moni how a person from this clan could become a martial practitioner, and he must have deceived the teacher with his method. Moni told the students that they were pursued by demons, and if not for him they would not have been able to get out of this wild land and would have died there. Moni told Lee that that day he fought with all his might to protect his friends, but they tried to kill him because of his identity. Lee Qingyo listened to Moni's story and said that now he understood the reason for his betrayal because he did not know anything about it before. Moni asked Lee Qingyo what kind of betrayal he was talking about and said that the pigs from Tianqing Academy were traitors themselves. Moni said that he saved their lives and they tried to kill him, and now he was ungrateful and Tianqing had no right to call him that. Moni told Lee Qingyo that none of these ungrateful people from Tianqing Academy should have lived in this wonderful world. Lee Qingyo was shocked and asked Moni if he really did away with all the people from Tianqing Academy because of hatred. Moni said that when the leaders found out about this incident, one attacked him and surrounded him, and for all these 6 years they did not come. Tianqing cancelled the tests and Moni faked his death and practiced in secret, and from that day he swore that he would destroy them all. Lee Qingyo told Moni that he really sympathized with him and those scoundrels had to die, but this did not concern innocent people. Moni told Lee Qingyo that there are no innocents in this world and all people are full of deceit, and he did not believe their false words and promises. Moni reminded Lee Qingyo that he had forgotten that his friends were still fighting the Ice Crystal Beast King in the forest. Lee Qingyo realized that things were bad and Moni wanted to detain him there so that he would not help his comrades in the fight against the monster. Xinyan at this time attacked the Ice Beast King and resisted him and wanted to hit him with his powerful fist. Xinyan struck the monster with his technique but did not cause much damage to it and thought that this ice monster was very strong. Xinyan asked his brother Lee Qingyo what was happening to him now, and if he didn't do something, very soon they would all die there. Moni pushed Lee Qingyo and said that now that his friends were on the verge of death, he wanted to see his further actions. Moni was wondering how Lee Qingyo would fight his ice monster without his fighting spirit and how he would save all the students. Moni told Lee Qingyo that now he could go and die with his friends, and immediately Lee Qingyo woke up and returned to consciousness. Lee Qingyo came to his senses and noticed that Fengu Xinyan was fighting a huge ice monster alone and needed help. Lee Qingyo wanted to help him but was surprised because he was unable to summon his fighting spirit and he didn't know what he could do without this spirit. The huge ice monster king approached Lee Qingyo and hit him, and from such a blow he flew far to the other side and fell. Lee Qingyo was in a lot of pain and he was lying on the ground and thought that Moni could be cursed because he had just treated him very meanly. Lee Qingyo looked at the huge and evil ice monster king and realized that Moni had sealed Zhangquan with his faithful fighting spirit. Lee Qingyo thought what he could do now without fighting spirit and what the wise teacher Nushuang would do in his place and how he would win. And then Lee Qingyo remembered the words of teacher Nushuang, and even if he had no fighting spirit, he could still reach the level of the starry sky. Lee Qingyo remembered his teacher's wise advice and thought that he could also gather star power and use it in any battle. Lee Qingyo realized that he relied too much on Zhang Kong and forgot his teacher's instructions, and he should always believe in himself. Lee Qingyo gathered all the star power in his fist and began to slowly approach the ice monster king in order to defeat him forever. Lee Qingyo remembered that he was shown this skill as a child and was told that it was a unique skill of his deaf fighting granny. And then Lee Qingyo put his fist in front of him and used a technique called Pangean Fist, and his hand began to glow. And at that very second, Lee Qingyo directed a bright blue beam directly at the monster, and the king of monsters began to scream in severe pain from the beam. And at that moment, from the action of Lee Qingyo's beam, the king of the ice monsters fell into small pieces and Lee managed to defeat him. Xinyan and Murong Lanyu watched this battle and it said that this was the end, and it was great, and brother Lee saved all the people of the academy. But Lee Qingyo told his friends that it was too early to rejoice and they had to wait because he saw something in front of him. Some luminous object appeared in front of Lee Qingyo and the students said that it was the venom of the beast and it appeared after his death. Mo Yanhao told brother Lee Qingyo that he was very lucky and now he had an ice beast core and it was interesting and very cool. Teacher Xinyan asked all the students to be alert and said that it seems that Lee Qingyo was right and this is not the end of their battle with the beasts. And at that moment, the core of the ice beast began to emit some blue waves, and all the people of the academy realized that this was clearly not good. Xinyan said that it was not good, and the core of the beast emitted the aura of wild beasts, and this should not have happened, and it is very dangerous. Waves from the beast's core began to envelop this entire area, and Xinyan asked all the students to quickly run away from there and hide somewhere. These waves began to envelop Murong Lanyu, and Li Qingniu realized that everything was bad and he had recently used up all his star power. Li Qingniu realized that the environment was frozen and he could not absorb the star power of the sky and earth again, and he had little energy. And Li Qingniu realized that ice was also an attribute of water, and despite the fact that his water spirit had not yet matured, he could absorb it from the ice. Li Qingniu began to use the longitude and latitude of heaven and earth and thunder and lightning, and he needed to temporarily increase his strength and energy. Li Qingniu realized that if he did this, he could accomplish what he had in mind and save all the students from freezing and other things. Xinyan asked Li Qingniu to be careful and asked what he wanted to do, and looking at his actions the teacher understood what he wanted to do. Xinyan said that Li Qingniu wants to absorb the core of the ice monster to end this once and for all and save all the people in the forest. Li Qingniu tightly grabbed the core of the ice beast, and Xinyan asked brotherly not to do this and said that she would kill him and it was dangerous. Li Qingniu lost consciousness and asked Zhang Kong where he was, and without his help he could not cope, and then Li suddenly woke up. The fighting spirit told Master Li that he had finally woken up and it was his fault that he was careless and did not help him in a difficult moment. Fighting spirit told Master Li Qingniu that last night he was impregnated by Moni, but fortunately now he has returned to his brother. Li Qingniu told the spirit Zhang Kong that he was glad that everything was okay with him and asked if he had defeated the king, and all the people noticed that Li had woken up. The students ran up to Li and said that last night he was very cool and he almost died, but luckily the teacher arrived on time. The students told Li Qingniu that the teacher helped him absorb the core of the ice beast, and Li wondered if teacher Lin Yun had arrived there. And then teacher Lin Yun told Li Qingniu that yesterday he had absorbed the core of the ice beast and he was very amazed by its mature courage. Ling Yun told Li Qingniu that because of this, his water martial spirit will now definitely go to the next level and he will become stronger. Li Qingniu bowed to the teacher and said thank you for saving his life and asked him but why he came there and what he wanted. Lin said that he came there because it was the first time in 6 years that the test was in the wild land and the 9 heads were secretly protecting them. Teacher Lin Yun said that last night at the same time, the students of the 9 halls were attacked by monsters and many of them died. Lin said that he helped the students of Longwu Hall who were attacked earlier than others, and on the way back he saw how he absorbed the core of the beast. Ling Yun looked at the teacher and said that if he had arrived a little earlier, Ling Yun Hall would not have suffered as much as it did now. Xinyan told the teacher that he was a leader but could not protect them, and he asked the teacher to quickly punish him harshly. Lin Yun asked him not to blame himself, and this is a common mistake, and they did not know the reason for the attack, but they saw that wild animals are dangerous. Lin told the students that the purpose of their training was to be prepared to defend themselves against waves of wild beasts, and last night was a lesson. Ling Yun looked at Xinyan, who was crying non-stop, and asked him to calm down and be prepared for such attacks next time. Lin Yun told all the students that now they should train harder and then they could easily defeat all their enemies. Li Qingniu bowed to the teacher and said that they all understood him and would not repeat their mistakes and would now be ready to attack all enemies. And at that second, a teacher from Tianqing Academy ran there and told teacher Lin Yun that he had finally found him because he was looking for him. The man from Tianqing Academy whispered in Master Ling Yun's ear and told him important information that he had recently learned. Lin was shocked and told Feng that he needed to return to Tianqing Academy immediately and the wildlife exam was suspended. Lin Yun told Jin Yun that he should quickly take the students to Guchuan City and meet with other halls, and he understood the teacher. And then teacher Lin Yun quickly flew away from there, and Li Qingniu realized that now he forgot to tell the teacher about Moni and meeting him in the forest. Li Qingniu thought that last night the teacher had already guessed everything but could not accept it, and they arrived at Tianqing Academy. Lin Yun immediately saw that all the heads of the halls had gathered at Tianqing Academy and they were waiting for his appearance and wanted to talk to him too. And Ling Yun immediately froze in surprise and was in shock because he saw that there were many corpses of students lying in Tianqing Academy. Ling Yun thought that it couldn't be Moni, and even if he survived, he didn't have the strength to deal with so many people. At this time, students came to the city of Guchuan and the spirit of Li Qingyo told the owner that he was sealed but he saw everything he did at night. The fighting spirit told Master Li Qingyo that he was able to defeat the enemy without relying on his strength and this was Master Li's great progress. Li Qingyo told his martial spirit that he wanted to know how the ice beast core would improve his water martial spirit and help him. The students were looking at the city of Guchuan and at that moment someone called Brother Li Qingyo and said that she missed him very much. Mo Yanhao froze in surprise and was in shock because he did not expect that Brother Li Qingyo could know such a handsome man. And then Gu Ruoqing ran to Li Qingyo and hugged him and the fighting spirit told the owner that he was wrong about him and was very wrong. The fighting spirit told the owner Li Qingyo that besides Murong Lanyu, he had other girls and Murong looked at him and did not understand. At this time, Lin told the leaders that the number of people in black who attacked this time was greater and the old sect master was also arrested. The leaders said that since the last time the old beast lord cultist was injured, he has never left the Temple of the Stars. The leaders said that even the meeting was behind the emperor, because otherwise they certainly were not opponents of the patriarch and never interfered with him. The head named Chili told all the heads that there was one more thing that disappeared with the old patriarch and it was very strange. Chili told all the heads that a collection of books had disappeared in the pavilion and this did not allow him to calm down and he thought about it all the time. The head of the hall said that the set of wood was one of the highest secrets, its effects in which the forbidden techniques of the clan are recorded. Chili thought and told the leaders that they must have met outside and wanted to destroy his Starry Sky sect forever. Ling Yun told all the heads that Yun Tian was the most sincere teacher and how could he do this and treat them so meanly. Chili approached Lin and said that there were so many tree disciples by the door and why then Yun Tian and Zenmuji disappeared together. The head of the hall told Chili and Lin Yun that the two of them no longer needed this and suggested that they discuss what they could do now. The head of the hall said that the most important thing was to repair the building and Lin Yun Hukundi and Shitong would stay together to start the repairs. The head asked the members of the 5 halls to leave immediately to investigate the fall of the old patriarch and traitor Yun Tian. Chili said that if Yun Tian really turned out to be the culprit, he would personally kill him and did not want to hear any more excuses. At this time, Li Qingyo and Gu Ruoqing were sitting in Furukawa Castle, and he asked her if Yang Li had started bothering her again as before. Gu Ruoqing told Li that after he left, no one in the Gu family would become his opponent and she and her father had to leave Qingyang City. Gu Ruoqing told Li Qingyo that suddenly as soon as she left, she received an assignment from the Heavenly Star sect and if not for this, Ruoqing told Li that she would not be able to see him and the fighting spirit told the owner that he felt both of them have a racing heartbeat. Martial spirit looked at Gu Ruoqing and asked Li Qingyo whether he would choose her or Murong Lanyu and Li didn't understand what that even meant. The fighting spirit told Master Li that he had fooled 2 beautiful girls at the same time, and did he really not understand this until now, like an idiot? And at that moment, Gu Ruoqing stood up and told Li Qingyo that she went to see what happened to Uncle Wu and how he was feeling. Murong Lanyu was angry at this time and began to bandage Mo Yanhao very harshly, and he asked his sister to make it easier. Mo Yanhao said that Brother Li Qingyo was indeed excellent and told Murong Lanyu that besides him, she had many options. Murong Lanyu got very angry and quickly began to bandage Mo Yanhao's mouth and he said that he meant something completely different and joked. All the students at Tianqing Academy continued to relax and explore this beautiful city, but suddenly they heard a loud roar. All the people in Guchuan City were panicked and told everyone that the city wall had been broken and safety was in jeopardy. Tianqing Academy students saw that some huge monster had appeared in the city wall and wondered if it was an attack from a beast. At that same second, a huge crocodile and a bloody bull appeared behind the wall, and they thought about how they could protect themselves from such animals. The people of Guchuan City said that these huge beasts were from the wild lands and how could they appear there and it was very strange. The fighting spirit told Master Li Qingyo that it was the same man and he appeared again and Li realized that he had prepared surprises for them. Li Qingyo stood and wondered how he and his friends could defeat these monsters, and then he called Moni from the roof of the building and was glad to meet him. Moni smiled and told Li Qingyo that he did not think that they would meet so soon and he already missed his friend. The fighting spirit told Master Li Qingyo that Moni could talk to God just like him and Li realized that it would be very difficult for him to defeat this enemy. Moni whistled and told Li Qingyo that last time the heads of the academy came to the wild forest and allowed him to escape from him. And then the wild beast Moni began to spew flames from his mouth so that the city burned, and Moni told Li Qingyo that this time he would disappear forever. Li Qingyo began to prepare his defense, and the martial spirit told the master that he was now blessed with sacred ice bones. Li Qingyo began to stop the fire with his ice, and the fighting spirit told the master that he could use the water spirit to fight. Moni asked Li Qingyo if he really had a double fighting spirit and said that it was very interesting and exciting. And at that moment a huge crocodile beast entered the city and began to destroy all the buildings there, and Moni really liked it and made him laugh. And then suddenly a huge piece of the building began to fall directly on Gu Ruoqing, who had not yet managed to escape from the city during the alarm. Gu Ruoqing thought that now everything would be over, but at that very second Li Qingyo appeared in front of her and froze the fragment and saved her. Li Qingyo asked Gu Ruoqing to immediately leave there along with the rest of the people because the city was very dangerous now. Xinyan asked his students to protect all people during the evacuation, and they agreed with him and ran to carry out the order. Murong Lanyu approached the huge crocodile and began to use the fighting spirit of the forest and the grapevine technique, and she succeeded. Murong Lanyu began to envelop the crocodile with her vines, and she managed to hold him, and she asked people to let her help. Mo Yenhao joined the students and began to use the earth skill and trap technique, and together they managed to defeat the crocodile. Teacher Xinyan asked all students to unite to finish off the giant crocodile and avenge the good citizens. At this time, the martial spirit asked Master Li Qingyo to simply use the bull this time to see his stealth technique in the bones. And then when he himself did not expect this, Li Qingyo realized that in fact the bones of these animals were the power of water, and he learned the truth. Li Qingyo looked at the huge bloody monster and sent blue rays towards it and said that now he would feel all its power. Li Qingyo told the monster that even though he was strong, compared to the big black cow in his village, he was nothing. The students looked at Li Qingyo's actions and thought maybe this was the secret technique of animal bones, and this couldn't happen. After several attacks by Li Qingyo, the huge bloody bull fell to the ground, and people thought that the danger had disappeared and they were saved. Li Qingyo took out his sword and jumped towards the bull to get rid of this dangerous huge monster from hell once and for all. But Moni looked at his wounded bull and ordered the huge crocodile to help this beast and stop Li Qingyo immediately. And after the command of the owner Monya, a huge crocodile quickly got out of the student's trap and pointed a long tongue at Li. The huge crocodile grabbed Li Qingyo tightly with its long tongue, and Li thought that now everything was bad and he needed to get out. And then the huge bull began to spew fire from its mouth, and Li Qingyo began to use the golden spirit of the holy sword to hit this beast. Everything around Li Qingyo was covered in flames, and he managed to strike with his sword and hoped that he had done good damage to the monster. The huge bull began to scream, and Li Qingyo landed on the ground and watched these monsters and waited for retaliatory attacks from them. Martial spirit told Master Li Qingyo that it was not good and they had underestimated these two beasts too much and made a mistake. The fighting spirit said that the crocodile is a beast from ancient times and its saliva is corrosive and is the enemy of the metal spirit. Li Qingyo asked his spirit for forgiveness and said that right now he was too weak to show his true strength to these enemies. Moni at this time continued to stand on the roof and ordered his animals, a huge bull and a crocodile, not to let these students survive. And at that very second, the bloody bull spewed fire from its mouth and directed this flame towards the students, and Moni wanted to destroy the entire Tianqing sect. Li Qingyo stood up and ran to defeat the monster and asked Zhangquan's spirit to hold out for a while, and he agreed with the owner. The bull continued to spew fire and the flames almost reached the student Murong Lanyu, and she was sitting on the ground and was in danger. Li Qingyo quickly ran to her and, standing in front of a huge bull, pointed his battle sword at the monster and wanted to destroy it. Li Qingyo's sword began to crack, and Moni told the trash that even if he had the old fighting spirit it didn't matter. Moni told Li Qingyo that he would not be able to stop the bull and he would stupidly just destroy his fighting spirit and not get any result. But Li Qingyo did not listen to this villain Moni and continued to point his ancient sword at the huge monster and hoped for his success. But then Gu Ruoqing came running to him and told brother Li Qingyo that she would help him defeat the monster if he allowed her to help him. Moni was surprised and asked Li Qingyo if it was really another beauty, and it seems that he was very lucky in life with beautiful ladies. Li Qingyo noticed that Moni, seeing Gu Ruoqing, ordered his crocodile to attack her and directed a beam at the monster with his second hand. The beam finally hit the huge crocodile, and at that moment it froze in place and stopped approaching Miss Gu Ruoching. Moni said that he was very interested, and did Li Qingniu really want to save both beauties, and thought that he would succeed in the end? Li continued to protect the girls from monsters with both hands, and Moni told him that he was too weak to save two at the same time. Moni asked Li Qingniu who he would choose, and Li said that he was too weak and could not protect the village and wanted to be stronger. Li Qingniu began to scream with all his might, and he was now feeling hellish pain but did not want to give up his hands so that one of the ladies would die. But Li did not expect this and froze in surprise and was in shock because he noticed that his fire and water spirits began to mix. Li Qingniu was not taken aback and immediately threw his ancient sword at the huge crocodile and thought that now in the end everything would be over. But Moni also realized that now his huge crocodile would die and quickly headed towards him and prevented the flight of the sword with his technique. From such a blow, Li Qingniu's ancient sword changed its trajectory and landed on the ground, and Moni was glad that he managed to do this. And at that moment, Li Qingniu froze in surprise looking at Moni and thought that he could never imagine such a thing in his life. Li Qingniu looked at Moni, whose hood had fallen, and asked him if he really was a girl and how is this possible. The students of Tianqing Academy were also very surprised to see that this traitor was a girl, and they thought that it was not Moni. Murong Lanyu approached Li Qingniu and asked them who this girl in the sky was and whether she had summoned huge beasts to the city. Gu Ruoching asked Li Qingniu if she attacked them last night, if she was a traitor from the Tianqing sect, and why is it a girl. The girl smiled and told the students that they had figured everything out and she was not Moni, and he had long been killed by the Tianqing sect in the desert. The girl said that her real identity is her twin sister Moni and her name is Monaxu, and she was pretending to be Sony all this time. She told Monax that she was the heir to her brother's fighting spirit and memory, and she knew that he suffered and wanted to take revenge on the people from Tianqing. Monaxu remembered, and then Lingyun told the students that today this is an ordinary test for them and they should take it seriously. And Lin Yun said that next comes Moni, and the students said that it was the same garbage and he did not communicate with anyone because of good grades. The students said that the village people tried their best and they always felt that Monia's behavior was somehow strange. Moni went to the test and used the golden fighting spirit and blood-red jungle power, and a beautiful glow appeared there. The head of Chile said that this student from Tianyuan Hall was not like someone from the Central Plains, and he was different from all the students. The head of the hall told the head of Chile that the old man also did not know where he came from, but in this Baishan Hall he also passed the test of Liker. The students kept laughing at Moni and asking him what kind of fighting spirit he had and what was that stupid stick on his hand. The students told Moni that of course this was a bad spirit of self-defense and that they sincerely felt sorry for him, but they did not want to see him. Moni got very angry at all the students and looked at them angrily and said that he was already completely tired of their idiotic behavior. Moni ordered all the worthless students to quickly leave him, and immediately he hit with his stick and everything around began to burn with flames. The head of Chile immediately jumped out of his seat and quickly walked towards the student. One might think that he should have calmed this student down quickly. The head of Chile stood in front of the students of Tianqing Academy and aimed his fireballs at Moni and began to use his techniques. The head of the class asked Zhang Moni how he dared to harm their neighboring sect's academy students and attack these people. Zhang Moni turned around and told the head that he just wanted to show everyone that they themselves were just trash and worthless. The students got angry and asked Sonia who he called trash and said that he had gone too far and no longer knew the boundaries. The students told Zhang Moni that his talent was like his bad character and that he himself was truly human trash. The head of the hall stood up and said to Zhang Moni that enough was enough and how dare he act so arrogantly and bully the students. The head of the hall pointed his finger and ordered Zhang Moni to go and think about his mistakes alone and then draw some conclusions. Zhang Moni looked at the head of the hall and asked the teacher if he had heard how he bullied the students and what he was telling him just now. The head of the hall was shocked by this behavior of student Zhang Moni, and he asked the teacher if he had just heard the brazen slander against him. Zhang Moni asked the teacher if it was because he was from the village and because of this they never wanted to protect him. One day, Zhang Moni and the rest of the students went into the wild lands and a huge tiger appeared in front of them and blocked their way forward. Moni thought that his martial arts were not enough to defeat the tiger and he ordered the thorny tiger to quickly leave from there. Zhang Moni stood very close to the thorny tiger and thought that he needed to use the madness technique, otherwise all the students would die. The students looked at this and wondered if the thorny tiger really recognized Monya's loyalty and how was this possible in reality. The students said that Monya had this ability, but why didn't he use the technique before and no one knew about it until now. The student said that he heard from his father that a race of demons living in the wild was born to control wild animals. And the student said that people suspected that the waves of wild beasts that came regularly could be related to the demon race. The students looked at Zhang Moni and realized that he had driven away the thorny tiger and he was not a human but a demon in the flesh of an ordinary person. And then the students began to attack Moni and said that the demon race was one with wild beasts and told him to get lost. The student said that the demon wanted to become a practitioner and wanted to kill him and thought that he influenced the teachers with his madness technique. But maybe got angry and asked the students what if he was a demon, and if it weren't for him they would all have died in this wild nature. And immediately after that, Zhang Moni brutally dealt with all the students because he was already completely tired of them being fools. Zhang Moni had already completely lost control of himself and thought that these students were themselves to blame and he did not wish them any harm. And after a couple of minutes, all the heads from Tianqing Academy came there and asked Zhang Moni why he did such a terrible action. Zhang Moni asked the head of Tianqing that he was also there to finish him off and said that he was very interested. Moni told the head that he too could help him because the Tianqing sect were worse than pigs and hated him because he was not a person like everyone else. Moni told everyone that they could do whatever they wanted with him, and the head asked Tianyuan to do everything and finish off Zhang Moni now. The head said that Moni was right and they did a lot of things wrong, but he killed his brothers and now the crime has become a reality. Xinyan heard Sister Monya and she said that this story was her brother and the Tianqing sect betrayed him and he was not a traitor. She told Monax that everyone wanted to harm her brother and he only wanted to protect himself and therefore he could not be a traitor. She told Monax that she inherited the spirit of her brother and uses the method of madness like him, and today she will finish off all the people of Tianqing. Monaxu began to conjure the red waves technique and said that she would use her blood to honor her brother's soul in heaven. Xinyan realized that Monaxu was under very strong oppression and besides, she also had two ancient beasts and they were not equal to her. Monaxu called the people from Tianqing Academy trash and said that this is the real powerful force given by this Tianqing sect. The animals began to approach the students and Monax said that they would never be able to achieve this in their lives and would die there. Xinyan suffered greatly from the pain of these red waves and was surprised why his body was trembling because he was Fenggu Xinyan himself. Murong Lanyu held Li Qingniu and asked her brother to calm down and said that they could still defeat Monaxa in the end. Gu Ruoqing also held brother Li Qingniu and said that they would avoid this and they should not be reckless and stupid. Li Qingniu thought that he was still too weak and if he could ask someone for help, he could defeat this Monaxa. But at that moment, someone told Monax to immediately stop attacking students and defenseless people and give up. Monaxu was surprised and looked up and saw a familiar person in the sky and thought how she knew that she was now in this city. And at that moment many dragons were flying in the sky and a woman sat on one of them and led the rest of the dragons to this city. A couple of minutes later, the woman landed on the ground on her dragon and the academy students also could not understand who she was. The man said that this is the current leader of the Haisha demon frame and asked those who have nothing to do with this to step aside. Mo Yenhao thought about the leader of the demon race and asked his people if she had come there to finish them all off. Haisha told Monax that her brother Moni stole the red dragon crystals inherited from the leader and she also did not return them back. Haisha said that using these crystals to direct animals to people was a crime and she had one more news. Haisha told Monax that the old leader, her father, died while she was gone and right before his death he called her name and left this world. Monaxu was told that her brother came to the land of martial arts to learn techniques and he wanted to change the life of the demon race. Haisha told Monax that in addition to stealing the dragon crystals, she also decided to work with the ghost temple and attracted attention. Monaxu was disturbed by the heads during the invasion of the wild and the ghost temple attacked the Tianqing sect, which led to deaths. Xinyan heard Haishi's words and thought that this was who was really to blame for the recent tragedy at Tianqing Academy. Li Qingniu asked his martial spirit if he had ever heard the name of the ghost temple, but the spirit also heard this name for the first time. Haisha told Monax that although the Tianqing sect was wrong, her brother was executed because he killed too many people from the sect. Haisha asked Manaxu if revenge leads to revenge will there be an end, but she apologized to her father for letting him down so much. Manaxu told Haisha that she was wrong and asked her to punish her for such actions and handed her the red dragon stone. Haisha took the red stone from Manaxu and said that the treasure of the demon race had finally returned to its original place. Haisha looked at all this chaos in the city that was created by Monax and at the giant beasts that she brought. Haisha ordered the giant crocodile and the bull to return to their place and leave the poor inhabitants of this glorious city alone. Haisha asked the people of the Tianqing sect to continue to honor the Lord, and this time poor Manaxu was deceived by the cunning scoundrel. Haisha said that he caused problems for the Tianqing sect, but the sect needs to be careful with the ghost temple and they will destroy them. Before leaving, she told Monax to Li Qingniu that he was indeed very attractive and strong, and she really liked him as a brave man. Monax was told by Li Qingniu that in fact she could not defeat him without the red dragon crystal, and he was surprised by these words. Monax said thank you to Li Qingniu that he stopped her and saved her from making a mistake and they will meet in the future, and asked him to remember her name. 3 days later, Li Qingniu and the others returned to the Tianqing sect and everyone finally calmed down, and Li Qingniu walked into the hall of the Baishan Hall. Li met Ling Yun and bowed and told him that disciple Li Qingniu greeted the teacher and was very happy to see him again. Ling Yun told Li Qingniu that he saw the attack on the Tianqing sect and he must know about the disappearance of Yun Tian and the head of this sect. Li Qingniu told the teacher that he knew everything, and did the teacher really ask him to meet one-on-one to quickly solve this problem? Teacher Lin Yun told Li Qingniu that he said everything correctly and tomorrow morning he will go down the mountain and complete his teacher's task. Li Qingniu sat down on his knees and asked the teacher why he kicked him out of the sect hall and whether he really did something wrong and was punished. Ling Yun smiled and began to lift Li Qingniu up and said that he had made a huge contribution to the sect and how could he expel him from the academy. Master Ling Yun thought that although Li Qingniu had talent and very strong abilities, he was also very simple and innocent. Ling Yun said that all the heads agreed that Yun Tian conspired with the Ghost Temple to capture the head of the academy, but he doubted that Yun Tian did this because he was born as Chen Yun Tian as one of the 10 best people in the emperor's descendant sect. Lin said to protect the safety of all people, Yun Tian's father and other influential people were sacrificed to the stranger. Master Ling Yun said that at that time Yun Tian was still a child, and he adopted him and took him to the Tianqing sect and took good care of him. Teacher Lin said that in order to prevent other people's suspicions, he hid his past by changing his name to Yun Tian. Li Qingniu realized that elder Yun Tian was actually the descendant of a hero, and it was not surprising that his temperament was unusual. Ling Yun said that Yun Tian was the strongest descendant and disciple whom he raised, and how could he betray the sect and teacher. The teacher told Li Qingniu that he would therefore send him there before the Tianqing sect people found him and he had to bring him back. Li Qingniu bowed and boldly told the teacher that he would not fail this mission, but where could he start searching for the elder warrior Yun Tian? Ling Yun told Li Qingniu that he could go to the Chen family's old house in the capital to see if there were any interesting clues there. Ling Yun told Li that although this wild test was not completed, he would count it so that Li Qingniu could quickly achieve the testing goal. Ling Yun told Li Qingniu that he also showed the courage and bravery that practitioners should have, and he became stronger. Li now had 7 stars and this badge could show his level, and the teacher did not expect that by this time he would be strong. Li Qingniu thought that when he first came to the land of martial arts, he was jealous of strong people who had badges. Although Li Qingniu still considered himself weak, today he finally officially became one of the strong people with the badge. Li Qingniu told the teacher that his star power is strong, but why does he not have a badge? And Lin Yun told the student that he did not understand anything. Ling Yun said that the level of strong people is divided into 3 levels and each level was divided into 10 levels and it was difficult. Ling Yun said that all the heads surpassed the star level of the sky and were not limited to secular rank and other popularity. Li Qingniu understood why the master did not have a badge and did not know when he could become as strong as the brave teacher Lin Yun. Li Qingniu told his martial spirit that they should go somewhere to find out before leaving tomorrow and be prepared. And Li Qingniu said that Snow Fairy Peak was located on the cliff behind the sect and was covered with ice and snow, and he could cling to the ice. Li was climbing the mountain and realized that it was so cold there, and if he didn't have a metal spirit he wouldn't be able to get there. Martial Spirit told Li Qingniu that he must see the one who spoke to him that day in the Baishan Hall before he came down from the mountain. Li Qingyo climbed the mountain and was shocked and said that there were precious stones of all kinds of attributes and now they were rich. Li Qingyo looked at the inscriptions that were drawn on this mountain and suddenly heard someone tell Li Qingyo that he had come. A red glow appeared there and they told Li Qingyo that they had been waiting for this talented child for a long time and he was finally there. Spirits appeared in front of Li Qingyo and they said that this was very good and they had been waiting for the body of the ancient gods for a long time and were very happy. The spirit said that when he was 500 years old, the ancestor of the founder of Tianqing knew that he had reached his limit and copied his consciousness into words on the wall. The spirit said that this realization was theirs and they were the embodiment of the rest of the ancestors in this world and they had good intentions. The spirit said that the ancestor asked him to stay in this world only to wait for him all the time, that is, the body of an ancient god. The spirits told Li Qingyo that in fact the entire Tianxing sect was built to wait for his appearance and it was very interesting. The spirits said that now they, on behalf of the Tianqing ancestors, entrust Li Qingyo to inherit the position of the head of the sect and the head of the Tianqing leader. Li Qingyo told the spirits of the three ancestors that they were probably mistaken and he was a simple disciple and he did not know anything about the body of the ancient god. The ancestors said that before the advent of civilization on this continent, there were two more eras, ancient and archaic, and then people had more than one spirit. The ancestor said that the founder of Tianqing was born in the ancient era and he had 5 martial spirits: gold, wood, fire, water and earth. The spirit said that the people of the archaic era, in turn, had stronger star power and there was an interesting theory. The ancestor said that the legend says that the strongest people in the archaic era had up to 9 fighting spirits and they believed the rumors. But the ancestor said that unfortunately both eras were wiped off the face of the earth due to waves of wild animals and people killing each other. The ancestor said that extraordinary bloodlines and many skills were lost and as a result people became weaker and weaker. Li Qingyo was very surprised and asked if there really were 9 martial spirits and besides the 5 elements there were other interesting facts. The ancestor said that this is why the people of the archaic era were called gods and he, who has the ancestry of the ancient era, was called the body of an ancient god. The ancestor told Li Qingyo that he was too weak now and had only awakened 2 martial spirits, and even if he had the body of an ancient god, he thought that he was not worthy of being the head. When the founder of the Tianqing sect observed the sky, he predicted that the future on this continent would be a disaster due to waves of wild beasts. The catastrophe will begin with the disappearance of strong people and then, like in the other 2 eras, they will die out again, killing each other due to waves of wild animals.